Countdown to Green. We take a look back at all the thrills and spills from the Monster Mile. We take a look ahead to everything going on tonight down in Sweet Home, Alabama. And we take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Countdown to Green. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and joining me, as always, we have Blake McCandless and we have Alan Cavada. How are you two doing?
I'm doing awesome. There's no better place in NASCAR, whether in real life or here in the virtual world, than Talladega, Alabama. Talladega Superspeedway. I cannot wait for the racing tonight. It's the best there is. I love it, Blake.
It's so crazy, and especially coming at this point in the year, I think there's a lot of drivers that could use this as an opportunity to gain a ton of points, to perhaps have that wild card go to victory lane that can lock themselves in the playoffs. There's a lot of opportunity available tonight, and with the fact it's fixed setup at Superspeedway Racing, anybody, and I mean anybody, has a shot to do it.
Anyone has a shot to do it tonight. I was actually going to ask Blake to maybe sing us a little bit, but you know what? We'll save everyone's ears for maybe next race or later in the show. But for now, why don't you two take us to what has happened in the previous race in Dover?
Again, a lot to catch up with a couple of weeks ago at Dover Motor Speedway. You can see as they fire off here, it was largely a contest, rather, at least in the opening part of the race, Alan, that was between Tucker Minter, Donovan Strauss. A couple of the Williams eSports cars were very, very strong early.
Yeah, we were able to see some good racing, too. Here's Steven Wilson moving up through the field. You know, as the race came on, we knew he'd be a player later. And strategy, Blake, that really played into this race more than a lot and ended up going into overtime eventually. But great racing, close racing here, 3 wide at Dover. Not the widest of tracks, so to see racing like this, it wasn't always perfect, though, for the field. There were some issues throughout the night, but a great race overall. We're about to see some of the drivers that had trouble, though. Again, early on in the season, but you can really dig yourself a hole, Blake.
You really could. You see Bobby Zielinski after his win at Brands Hatch, and this was kind of what could have worked, right? At Dover, it tightens up off the exit of the corner. We saw an incredible battle, tick for tack, door to door, between Steven Wilson and Tucker Minter before a couple of late caution flags, but what an incredible race we saw amongst these two competitors. And then the late green-white checkered, Caden Honeycutt has a shot to win it, 3 wide into turn 3, coming around to the white flag.
To see the 2 leaders and that opportunity there, but those 2 leaders to make contact and the green-white checkered like that, and that close, Steven Wilson able to pull it off, get yet another win, the champ, the winner. I mean, we're getting used to this, so it's pretty crazy out there for Steven Wilson this year. But it was that whole overtime thing that really had me thinking. Look at where Caden Honeycutt is in the 8th, 3rd place as we start the green-white checkered in overtime. And opportunity, you know, you don't expect him to win from 3rd, but opportunity right here, when those 2 cars get together, my jaw dropped. I'm like, Caden's gonna do it. Caden's gonna do it. He's on the outside of turn 4, and he's got this race won, and it didn't happen. So, missed opportunity for Caden, in my book anyway. These wins are so tough to come by. He's about 10th sitting there in points. You want to get that victory to solidify your position for the season, for the playoff. I just think that was a missed opportunity there, Blake.
Certainly so for Caden Honeycutt. Really could have used the 40 points in my picks as well. But the thing that I came out of this race thinking about is the fact that 2-tire strategies have become so common in this series. Steven Wilson, each of his wins, he was not necessarily the dominant car, but he got track position through a 2-tire call, whether it was at Richmond several races ago or Dover Motor Speedway. We saw the same exact thing work. So I think these drivers, these teams, they're adapting to the fact that with these shorter races, you have the opportunity to take 2 right-side tires, you get the track position, and with some of the late yellows, it is enough to hang on to the end. You can see the end result of that. The only driver that has multiple wins this season is Steven Wilson, gathering up those playoff points, but a ton of positions on points available to make the playoffs right now. Again, Keegan Leahy, Malik Ray outside of the top 20, so their wins would not lock them in right now, and you could see it is very close outside of the top 10. By the way, both of those junior motorsports cars in Honeycutt and LaPrade tied. You have KHI, both of those cars that are just behind them, within one race between 20th to 10th in these standings. But again, we have segments this year. This is how segment 2 is shaking out after each of the last 2 races. Zielinski and Wilson doing fantastic after a pair of top 5 runs. Tucker Minter, Parker White, Vicente Salas. Remember that he was in the top 5 at Brands Hatch as well. Each chasing some money, each chasing some additional playoff points that Wilson would love to carry into the first round of the postseason, Alan.
And speaking of money, trophies, and especially pride, the team standings. William Byron Esports moving up into the top spot, 322 points. William Esports up 2 spots now in the second position. In that spot, we saw Malik Ray crash. Spire Motorsports moved down just a bit. Go down a little further. Kevin Harvick Incorporated down 3 spots. And then you look over on the right side. Not a lot of movement up and down, but good stuff there for Front Row Motorsports, moving up 1 after that last race in Dover. But let's not forget about those team standings and the little pride, of course, the money that comes along with it.
Oh, lots of pride. I feel like there's a lot of mishaps that happened last race, like you spoke about, that some of the drivers, I think, are really paying attention to as they go into Talladega. But speaking of the drivers, you know, they're busy on the track, but they're also busy in real life racing as well, because they are making appearances everywhere.
Yeah, they really are. There's so much going on with our Coke Series drivers. Look at Caden Honeycutt in just the last few days. Blake and I were there for his Cars Tour race at a speedway in North Carolina, where he got 3rd in the Pro Late Model. The next morning, he wakes up, flies to Kansas Speedway, and gets 4th in the Craftsman Truck Series race at Kansas. And that wasn't a by luck 4th. He had the fastest truck for much of that race. Probably should have been a little better, so I expect more things out of Caden the next time we see him in that truck. So kudos to him for that run out in Kansas. Vicente Salas as well. This was in March. I was there covering the race. He made his Truck Series debut at COTA in March. He finished, I think he was 22nd in that first stage, and then had some transmission issues. But just to see him out there, the smile on his face, the number 20, what that meant to him, it was very cool to see Vicente out there making his debut. And then Matt Busa made his oval track debut. He was 4th in the Grand National Super Series at New River All-American Speedway. Imagine that, your first on-track debut like that, and you come home 4th place. Another big smile, car looking good. But to see that happen in Blake, it's so neat.
So neat, especially at a very abrasive racetrack. He was well-trained with iRacing for that. But also on the local level, you have Ryan Doucette, who, of course, has been running in the New England part of the country in the modifieds for a number of years. Unfortunately, had an electrical issue at New London Waterford Speedball this past weekend. But again, Doucette continuing to compete in the modifieds. And speaking of modifieds, the IMCA modified lights in April. This was Tyler Gary. He and his brother ran 1-2. It was Tyler Gary that got the win at his local dirt track at Hendry County Motorsports Park. So Tyler Gary getting it done in Victory Lane, looking to carry it over to the Coke Series as well. Also, Donovan Strauss, who has been kind of introducing himself to late model stocks this year, ran 2nd at Florence Motor Speedway, has been learning that racetrack and competing there weekly. He'll also be running there this coming Friday night before they go to Darlington Raceway. Was also helping out at AK Performance at that Cars Tour race at Ace Speedway. So staying busy, but it's not just in the car, it's out of the car where some of our drivers have been busy. How about Briar LaPrade? Got a media and marketing position with Sheldon Creed, and Joe Gibbs Racing has been creating content with that driver and that team all season long. So doing it with Joe Gibbs in real life, doing it with Junior Motorsports here in the sim. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's so cool to see how busy the drivers are and how they can bring sim racing into their lives. Look at Garrett Lowe. UNC Charlotte, his Formula SAE team, 1st place at the student night competition in the Carolina region. He's there in that picture. We got another picture of Garrett, doing what he does, and seeing that team and what they're able to do at UNC Charlotte, apply his iRacing. Yeah, come on, Garrett. I mean, smile for us. We're shouting you out here, but he's doing a lot of stuff right.
Okay, he's busy working.
Doing a lot of stuff right. And look, Blake, the college series, there's so much. These drivers are busy. They're busy winning, especially Steven Wilson.
Yeah, Steven Wilson, the eNASCAR College iRacing Series that concluded this past Friday night. He goes and wins that series, takes home let's see, $12,950 in scholarship money through the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, getting it done for the University of Iowa. Great-looking race car, and again, carried great speed through the many different vehicles they ran. Xfinity trucks, didn't matter. Stephen Wilson, former Coke Series champion, also able to pick up a bag on the college side as well.
I mean, he's probably going into this race feeling a little bit confident, right? I gotta feel that if you have $12,000 in your pocket, right? You gotta feel good.
We'll just see if Camille finally picks him to win. So
Hey, I think he's happy that I haven't been picking him. I haven't had the best luck, but let's take a look at this practice.
Wow, yeah, open practice. Looks like they need it, Blake. Whoa!
Oh, geez. Well,
That was unfortunate place to be in the pits there.
well, again, the nice thing about these drivers is that they're not zeroing in on qualifying, even though they probably are. They get the opportunity. It's fixed setups, and, well, in practice, you can afford to kind of take some aggressive moves, and we saw a little bit of that right there.
Well, let's take a break from maybe the aggressive moves on the track and take a look back with some nostalgic feels from 2016, as iRacing staff writer Justin Melillo is going to take us back to a time where two brothers took on a champion in one of the closest point battles in series histories. Take a look at the vault.
The eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series has had plenty of names grace its ranks over the years, but two names that newer fans may not know of are the Sturgis brothers, PJ and Jake, and 2016 was almost their year. The two brothers from New Hampshire would step up to contend for the 2016 title against then two-time champion Ray Alfalla. Jake, the younger of the two brothers, knocked off a win early in the season, defeating Alfalla at Atlanta Motor Speedway. 2 weeks later, it was older brother PJ's time in the sun, with a fuel strategy win at Phoenix over Chris Overland. Ray finally got his first win of the year in race 4 at Fontana, but he'd only win one more race that season. PJ, on the other hand, won 4 more times that season, making 6 wins for the brothers, putting the New Hampshire duo in the championship picture all year. Coming down to the Homestead finale, Jake maintained a healthy lead over Overland and Dillon Duval for third in the point standings. Up front, PJ would have to settle the championship on the track, as he would enter Miami just 12 points behind Alfalla. PJ went on to win that Homestead finale, his 5th win of the season, but it would be a hollow victory for the 57 team. With everything on the line, Alfalla finished exactly where he needed to, right behind the leader in second place, and by leading the most laps that night, Ray Alfalla would claim his 3rd career eNASCAR championship. And that's been a look back at one of the most memorable moments over the last 14 seasons of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
And it's always cool to look back and see where all those things are going. So let's get a live look here. Is it time for our favorite segment, guys? I think it's time.
We're going to just check in first.
Yeah, live look at practice. Looks like they're practicing pit stops, which is always essential, because, making that pit stop can always make or break your race.
Yeah.
And, this is our favorite segment.
It is.
Look at the wood paneling. Show us your rigs.
Paneling. Yeah, this is Logitech. Show us your rigs. And of course, this is where we get to see your rigs at home. And our first one, this one coming from Triff, bringing us back to our mom's basement with these wood panelings.
Look, antique desk. Got some sticky notes on there.
Lights going.
Yeah, duct tape.
Yeah.
Whatever you have to do to iRace, to sim race, just do it. That's all you have to do. Look at this rig. It's perfect.
You gotta love it. Let's head on to our next one. Our next one is from Backspin Fox. What do you think, Blake?
I don't know. I always like a VR rig because, you don't necessarily need the monitors everywhere. Cable management, even without monitors, could be a little bit better, I would say. But nevertheless, able to just hop right in, flip on the VR headset, and get going with the old trusted Logitech G25. Can't go wrong with that.
You can't go wrong with it. It's probably cool in there. It looks like basement. And this is a pretty sweet rig right here from Chris, or Sim Racer, as well. This was pretty sweet, Alan.
Yeah, wood paneling of a different kind, maybe a different decade, but this is another VR rig. Look at that tube chassis frame right there. That's really nice. The real world seat, of course. I mean, that's right out of a race car. And you gotta love the setup. I bet that looks cool on camera. You know, you're looking at it now. And again, the VR setup, just really neat.
Some lighting there too to set the mood. You gotta love it. And this is the best part about the sim. You know, you don't have to have the most elaborate setup. You could have something nice and simple at your desk.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just you get the IKEA desk, I would imagine, going on. You strap on the Logitech wheel, a curved monitor here, not too bad. You got even a little bit of hydration going on here. So short, simple, to the point. I like it, and perhaps another car that might be missing a seat as well.
Where are they putting these cars without the seats? Our next one is from Tom. And Tom, you got some dual monitoring happening here as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's a triple if you look at it. I mean, it's a modest triple monitor set, but pro gamer rig, very comfy seat, it looks like. A pedal board on the floor. People are telling me this is a musician, maybe using effects pedals as a button box. I don't know if, or he just wants cool sounds while he's iRacing. I mean, that's up to him. So good job, Tom.
And we're going to the big screen with Trey here. Wow, what a setup, and some trophies for motivation.
This guy really likes Five Flag Speedway. Got a lot of those UI images are queued up for us to run Five Flag.
Remember, you can show us your rigs right here on Countdown to Green by sending them using the hashtag on social media, hashtag eNASCAR, tagging iRacing as well, and eNASCAR GG on all of the social medias. We're everywhere because we want to see your rigs. Now, why don't we get a look at some of the drivers as they prep for the big race in Talladega?
Yeah, this was actually out in Kansas this past weekend, Camille.
Yes.
Team Spire and a bunch of other drivers. The KC Pioneers hosted the Spire drivers as well. And they, you know, this was at the NASCAR Cup race, guys. You know, to have our drivers in the Coke Series out there at the Cup race in front of a big stage, big crowds, promoting the sport, educating people. Great stuff to see. A lot of attention toward them, Blake.
Well, again, a great opportunity for these drivers to get out there to be able to kind of represent sim racing in a way. They're the best drivers in the world, and, you know, to be able to go out there and kind of put a good face and try to, you know, teach the fine folks in NASCAR and all these race fans what sim racing is all about and how it can be. I think there's no better place to promote it than right at the track. And Kansas City Pioneers, they've done an incredible job with each of these events they've done. This has been the best one yet. And this might be the best event I've ever seen.
You got to race, right? You got to race.
I mean, they decided to take it to their own feet, and maybe this is also proving why they're in the driver's seat instead of racing on foot.
I mean, that wasn't close. And not only was it not close for Malik's win, I mean, look at his teammate here. I mean, 3 steps, Casey. I mean,
that's the champ. The champ,
the
Casey.
champ.
You got to stay. You got to stay in the protection of your rig, right? We got to keep him in-house down in North Carolina because he gets hurt.
Well, my thing is, like, we got to hear from Casey.
They
what happened?
They had more grip. I specified I hadn't ran in years. I warned everyone.
So, Blake, what are you thinking about that?
Well, first I got to think, congrats to Malik Ray. You may earn some playoff points there, but if you're Casey, I mean, we got to hit you with it, really, dude. I mean, come on,
really?
you got to be able to make it at least to the finish line here. I know slamming down the apron may be a penalty in this series, but you can't slam down your face into the apron. That's we can't tolerate that.
Wonder if the
Bad look for a
bruises
champ.
are gonna affect the race tonight. I don't know. He's hurting. He was hurting.
Don't worry, we're not at Kansas. We're at Talladega tonight, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, with that, why don't we keep it in Kansas? Alan, let's check in with the driver.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to one of the team owners, Austin Dillon, one of the Cup Series drivers. Yes, of course, but of course, one of the team owners here in the Coke Series. Austin Dillon was cool enough to join us earlier today, and we asked him, you know, he has seen so much change both here in the series and in the Cup Series as well. So in terms of simulators over the years, how have they developed and how have they become more prevalent in NASCAR?
Well, it's developed fast, and it's something that we use as a tool, and I think COVID really struck that. You know, a couple years before that, we were using sim leading up to practice sessions, and it got really serious from our standpoint when Eric Warren was here and he used to fly to Indianapolis and work on the first simulator that we had, which was in a hexapod with full travel. And I remember going through those days trying to figure out how to make the simulator accurate. Man, we've just come a long way. And that particular simulator, it could give you a concussion because of the travel it had. And I remember some scary moments in that thing wrecking. And we tuned it all in and got it better. And that became the simulation we used at RCR. We started having static rigs at RCR. And then Chevrolet pretty much took over all of simulation. And we moved everything to their complex there in Concord. And we use it each week. I'm actually headed this afternoon to run our session for Darlington.
Always interesting to see how much simulation plays into real-world success. But of course, Team Dillon, Austin Dillon, they were the 2023 team champions in this series. How cool is that for a team owner in the series? Here's what he said.
Well, it's really cool. Austin Craven's done a really good job managing Team Dillon iRacing program and getting to meet the guys over the years and watching him pick different guys out. It's been fun, and meeting the guys at the track. They usually get to come to 1 or 2 races a year and see them. I saw our drivers last year at Charlotte. And, man, it's been fun to see the evolution, and winning a championship was really cool. We've got some great partners in Coca-Cola who have really supported our program over the years.
And these Cup teams, we know 2311, they've hired a sim racer for their professional team. So we asked Austin, could we see more sim racing drivers have places at Cup teams?
I think so. You're seeing more and more, and we have guys that come in and run sim. My brother comes and runs sessions, and Christian Eckes, Anthony Alfredo is another guy that's done really well in iRacing that is a Team Dillon guy that works for HMS, and he's been doing a lot of their sessions. So, yeah, no, I think it's handy and helpful because, when you're really busy doing a lot of different things for NASCAR and your partners, it's tough sometimes to spend the time that you need in the sim, or it can get frustrating because, it's not going to be perfect. You're working off something that is created in the computer. It's not, real life. We're trying to do our best to trick ourselves to get it as close as possible. And when you start throwing in motion in the simulator, it gets really tough. But the static rigs, I think, are very comparable. You use your eyes to kind of see the travel in the car and feel what you're looking for. But I think it's very helpful. And the guys in the iRacing world that do well also do well in the sim world when it comes to NASCAR.
And if there's anyone that could give us some advice to win at a super speedway, it's Daytona 500 champion Austin Dillon. So we asked him, what advice do you have for the drivers tonight at Talladega?
Man, I'd like to help as much as I can. I was fortunate enough to win one in 2022 at Daytona, but it's mostly staying out of the wrecks. And I think track position is key with this car. It's very tough to pull out of line, and I'm sure it's the same with iRacing. Getting those runs when you get them and how much you use them. Blocking is another part of it. I think that, you watched Talladega a couple weeks ago. Michael McDowell was being very aggressive with his blocks. He kind of threw one last block instead of giving himself, maybe a shot to race back to the start-finish line. So, if anything, throw blocks, but be cognizant of the last one you throw. You don't have to throw that last one. Give yourself a chance to win, and you might get the momentum. I think this next-gen car is also very key to be at their right rear or at their left rear coming off the corner. The guy that's leading a nose out front is at a pretty good disadvantage when it comes to air. So you get that momentum going to the start-finish line.
Look, you heard it from the professional. Throw that block tonight, guys. I don't know if that's the best advice. Like, Camille, we saw in the real world, like he mentioned, Talladega, Michael McDowell threw the block a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out so well for McDowell. Threw a few too many. But, hey, Austin said it, so go ahead. Throw that block tonight.
He's also saying being a little cautious, too. So why don't you, Blake, take us through the track analysis and let us know exactly what these drivers need to look out for.
Well, again, I was just running this in the 87 car, so very familiar with this. 2 2/3 of a mile here at Talladega Superspeedway. Everybody knows about the amount of banking, 33 degrees in the turns. You run wide open down the Alabama Gang super stretch through turns 3 and 4, and again, all the way through the trial before eventually getting to the start-finish line. Casey Kerwin was your winner, and He even came up just short of a win here a couple of times, but is always a factor and has been at all these drafting tracks. But let's have Jonathan Delaney walk you through exactly what these drivers will be going through tonight.
What's up, guys? Jonathan Delaney here, driver of the number 3 Coca-Cola Chevrolet for Team Dillon Esports. And today, I'm going to be taking you guys around the lap at Talladega Superspeedway. Alright guys, here's a lap around Talladega in the pack. As you can see, there's some 3-wide racing that's going to happen tonight. Possibly even some 4-wide racing is going to happen as well. There's going to be a lot of big checkups, as well as a lot of big runs are going to come off from that top lane. So just knowing where to place and position your cars at is going to be very crucial to how well you're going to finish at for this race. I think the dominant lane is going to be at the top by the wall. That's where you're going to get the biggest runs off. And just keeping your car clean to the very end, that's what you got to do. If you don't have 100% of your car left, it's going to be super hard to keep up and be the fastest you can. So there's your guys' lap around Talladega Superspeedway.
Now that we have a glimpse of what the drivers are looking at on the track, why don't we take a look back at some of the trends we see at Talladega, Alan?
Yeah, let's do it, because you never know what the past can tell us about the future, and maybe tonight. 9th eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Talladega. From 2014 to 2018, Talladega was not on the Coke Series schedule, so I'm so happy it did indeed come back, because it's a heck of a racetrack. Only one race at Talladega has been won from the pole. That was way back in 2010. Maybe you can tell by the graphics and that wing you see on your car there, but that was Brad Davies for Junior Motorsports. A little old school back in 2010. So yeah, maybe the pole, not the best place. We'll have to see. Only 3 drivers have led the most laps and then won the race. 2010, Brad Davies. 2021, Nick Ottinger, and then the runner man himself, 2023, Casey Kerwin, just last year, led the most laps and then won the race. So we'll see what Casey can do again in his Spire Motorsports ride. In the last 10 Superspeedway races, 5 of them had a first-time winner. Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, all included. That's why we love these races. It kind of brings the field together, fixed setup. You never know who may win tonight. We saw it with Wyatt Tinsley in Daytona. Maybe we get a surprise. Once again, Malik Ray, that was very cool. Maybe we get a surprise again tonight. And no driver has ever won at Talladega and then gone on to win the championship in the same season. I don't want to jinx anybody. A win is a win, and you want them all. But if you want that championship, maybe you look at the past. Maybe you don't want to win tonight. I'm not sure.
Well, good for us. They're not going to be pulling the brakes just yet. We still have drivers to pick for tonight's race. So why don't we start with Blake? Who are you picking?
I'm going to be simple tonight. His drought has not ended in Moon Car, but I think it finally ends in the Coke Series tonight. Colin Bowden, the man, the myth, the legend, the mullet. He's going to go to victory lane for the first time. He's been so close in a number of these Super Speedway races. I think he finally breaks through.
I don't know if he'll win, but he will be the show tonight. That I can promise you. My pick, I'm going back to Daytona. Wyatt Tinsley gets another win and vaults himself up in the standings. I think he does it again, Camille.
All right, well, Alan, looks like we're not on the same page this week, because I'm going with Malik Ray. I'm really thinking that he's going to bring it home, and you know what? At least Steven Wilson could be happy I didn't pick him, because I've been jinxing some of these drivers. Hopefully not Malik tonight.
Guaranteed Steven Wilson win tonight now.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're going to have to see who wins as we head into the race. From all of us here at iRacing, thank you so much for watching. And be sure to stick around after this break, because Alan and the team, Alan, Blake, and Evan, are going to take you through the race.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
the make or break moment.
Oh my goodness!
Not just for the day, but for the years to come. This is where a race isn't just about the race. It's about the doors it can open.
That kid is amazing.
The number of fans wearing your number. This is the chance to carve your name into the history books. This is the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. You know I put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire. So let's see, and I still believe. Take the lead, take the lead, take the lead, take the lead.
The road to $500,000 is ready to take flight from the home of the former Anniston Air Force Base, now known simply as Talladega. We say good evening, Sim Racing fans, and welcome to round 7 of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It is our third super speedway race of the season, and the second of which will be on fixed setups. And as always, we're happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us here on eNASCAR.com. With Blake McCandless, my name is Evan Pasoko. Blake, ready to do it again, and we can talk all we want. Talladega is simply Talladega. That's the challenge on deck tonight, but also a big opportunity for a lot of drivers still looking for a golden ticket.
And that is the word heading into tonight. Opportunity, right? That anybody, no matter the season that you've had, whether you're Ray Alfalla, who's really struggled this year, all the way up to your points leader in Steven Wilson, anybody has an opportunity to go to victory lane tonight if you make the right moves and if you put yourself in position. And I think the intro song says it right. I don't know if you exactly want to wait for that opportunity. I think you got to take the lead. You got to take it early.
It is the final of these super speedway races this season. We packed 3 of them into the opening 7. So if this is the style of racing that you feel like gives you the best opportunity to become an eNASCAR winner, the best opportunity to lock into the playoffs, now's the time to make it happen. Let's look trackside at your Coca-Cola starting grid. He was fastest on his feet, and he is fastest in qualifying. The Spire Motorsports number 7 of Malik Ray will bring us to the green flag tonight. He's alongside the 2311 Racing Toyota of Keegan Leahy. Back on row number 2, the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team headed by Travis Pastrana's 99. That's Matthew Zawak, and Tony Kanani Sports with the 66 of Colin Keister will start from position number 4. Back on row 3, it's Kevin Harvick Incorporated's number 29 of Jamie Mullis, and Front Row Motorsports' 38 of Michael Cozy Jr. Back on row number 4, the RFK Racing number 6 of Timmy Holmes, and the Pittsburgh Knights number 27 of Cody Bias. And to round out your top 10, on row 5, it is the Kansas City Pioneers, the 20 of Wyatt Tinsley, and the Junior Motorsports 88 car of Briar LaPrade.
It'll be a row for Letarte Esports, looking to make up some ground, both with Dillon Alt and Kwame Scott, going from 12th and 11th, respectively. Back to 13th, looking to, recover after his Kansas incident this weekend. Casey Kerwin starts 13th for Spire Motorsports, and Parker White, Williams Esports, is represented in the 14th position. Back at 15th, the former series champ, Zach Novak, goes from 15th for Oxygen Esports. Nick Ottinger, also a former series champion, he goes from the 16th starting spot in row 8. Back in row 9, you'll see Jordy Lopez for BS Plus Competition, as well as Ryan Luza coming off his best run of the season for M80 Motorsports. Back in 19th, you saw him take you for a lap in the pre-race show around Talladega Superspeedway. Jonathan Delaney for Team Dillon, and Tyler Gary rounds out your top 20 with eRacer.
Halfway home, row number 11, it is the Austin Dillon Team Dillon Esports 33 car at Taylor Hurst in the second. At the Kevin Harvick Incorporated entries, that one, the 62 of Matt Busa. Back on row number 12, it is the Pioneers 48 machine of Graham Bolin and Travis Pastrana's Nitro Circus Sim Racing Team's 41 of Dylan Duvall. Lucky row 13. You're going to see the FGRXL eRacing 14 of Seth the Merchant, the lowest of the rookies so far in the field tonight. He's going to be alongside the BS Competition 89 of Garrett Lowe. Row number 14. We'll see the Joe Gibbs Racing 18 of Bobby Zelensky and the William Byron Esports 97 of Tucker Minter. A couple of Championship 4 drivers with some work to do in the midfield. And back on row 15, the Joe Gibbs Racing 54 of Daniel Falkingham is going to be alongside two-time race winner this season, the M80 number 10 of Steven Wilson.
For FGRXL, it's Garrett Maines going from 31st. Vicente Salas for Tony Kanaan will start in 32nd tonight. For RFK Racing back in 33rd, it's Colin Bowden with Femi Olafton-Bunsen going from 34th position with Oxygen Esports. After nearly winning a week ago, Caden Honeycutt will go from 35th for Junior Motorsports, as well as 2311's outfit with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. It is Michael Guest starting in 36th tonight, the final driver to put down a time in qualifying. Back in 37th, Ray Alfala, 4-time champion, lining up alongside Derek Bordeaux for eRacer and Front Row Motorsports, respectively. And back on the final row, Donovan Strauss and Ryan Doucette, Williams Esports and the Pittsburgh Knights, represented for two of those drivers who we talked about running in real life just a couple of weeks ago.
It's a look at the bottom at your Coca-Cola starting grid, and we talked about Malik Ray's success on the racetrack on his feet, Blake, but it's his first pole on a Tuesday night this year. You're dialed up with tonight's pole sitter.
I was about to say, we know you can outrun them on your feet. How are you going to be able to outrun them tonight and hopefully get your second win of the season?
I'm going to try to just keep the track position that I have, and I'm going to try to just stay up front the whole time. If I get shuffled in the middle, I'll probably just stay in the back until green flag pit stops.
I was about to say, with all these kind of aggressive strategies and different things going on, what's kind of the group that you have together? You need friends to make it happen. What's kind of the game plan amongst some of your folks and being able to work together? How many do you think you have in your back pocket tonight?
3 or 4. None of them are guaranteed to stay with me on the white flag, though, so yeah.
All right, Malik. Well, you start from the best spot in the house. We'll see if you can end there tonight. Good luck.
All right, thank you, Blake. I appreciate it.
Well, Malik's already got a race win from earlier this season at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. That was the last time we had a fixed setup race. We do it again tonight. Maybe no surprise that the 7 car is starting from pole. Lights out on top of the pace car. Going to be 1 lap to go before we get underway. Blake, let's preview this one and look at our eNASCAR race analysis.
Again, it'll be 70 laps for these drivers. That pit window, that is about how far they could go. Anywhere between 40 and 45 laps is probably on the narrow end of that, or the shorter end of that, rather. Probably about 41, maybe 42, depending on how much draft you have in your pack and how much you're lifting. But it's going to be all about saving time on pit road. We know that's what these next-gen super speedway races have somewhat turned into in real life. The same is going to apply to some degree here in eNASCAR. And those 3 tire sets, can't imagine that you're going to be using all of them. It is all about track position tonight. Tire wear, pretty much not going to be a factor.
And that fixed setup comes into a factor again. Blake, how big is that? Does that simply just eliminate some of the testing time when it comes to tuning in the setups, or does that have a material difference in my car doesn't do what I really want it to do because it's that common denominator?
Well, I'd say the fixed setup here is stable enough that nobody's really going to complain about handling. It's not tight. It's not loose. It's stuck to the racetrack. It's exactly what you would expect out of Talladega. The one thing it provides these drivers, though, is just the opportunity to plan ahead. Most of these teams, they've been focused on Charlotte now for weeks. They haven't had to worry about anything with this race other than just running qualifying laps and then maybe running a couple of pack tests, but they haven't had to spend time finding speed for this race.
Well, by the time this race is done, it'll be 7 down and 7 to go. We're already halfway through this season, and if you want the latest news and updates from all around the world of eNASCAR, make sure you scan the QR code on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and sign up today, because that road to $500,000 gets ever so closer. Pace car down and in, the field in the hands of the number 7 of Malik Ray for the first time of this season, as he's got to be patient to get all the way to the exit of the trial. We're happy that you're with us on eNASCAR.com. Let's go racing at Talladega. Steady start, top side, the early advantage. It's a push to the 23, leading the outside line of the racetrack. That is Keegan Leahy with the nose in front. He's pushed by Keister on the inside of Malik Ray, pushed by the 99 of Matthew Zawak. And do we go a third lane already? The 38 car to the outside. It's Cozy, and everybody else going to go top side with them.
And we are going to see this back and forth all race long here. The drafting model on iRacing allows these drivers to go anywhere they want to build runs. As Malik Ray slides up in front of the top line, shuts the door on Cozy, who's going to be put into the sucker hole down there in the middle. As Ray, well, you think we heard from Austin Dillon, you want to be able to throw the block. I don't know if he meant on lap 1, but you see Malik Ray's going to do it as they are already 4 wide. Drivers trying to make up their track position very quickly.
Yeah, the driver going the wrong way there through the middle. Looks like maybe the 62 car, Matt Busa, going the wrong direction. Cozy was an instigator. He got left out to dry no later than maybe 5 seconds after he left. The race leader's out to dry for the moment, and still 3 wide. A couple of cars looking to the middle. The 27 of Cody Bias, no help. The 10 machine, middle of the road as well. I think that's Stephen Wilson. They're going to finally get some assistance, but nobody in agreement in who's going to be your dancing partner and what lane we want to stay in these opening laps. 2 wide, the majority decision. 1 car jumps low to high. That was the orange number 5 car of Zach Novak, and this time at the stripe outside the advantage as Matthew Zawak leads his 2nd lap of the day.
2nd lap of the day, 2nd lap of his career. For Matthew Zawak, and this is kind of an opportunity race for some of these drivers. Zawak being a rookie, he's one of a couple that are in this field that are just trying to get their feet wet in this series, and this is their chance to, run out here at a racetrack like this and be able to make those moves and have an opportunity to win this race, turn their season around. And you can see Zawak kind of doing it by trying to control every lane. He goes to the top, he goes to the middle now in front of Malik Ray. But the other thing is here, Evan, we saw Cozy fall back a little bit earlier. It's early. They're going to have time to make it up. Is Malik Ray not content to ride behind Zawak? He's going to make his own move for the top spot.
He's going to make his own move, and 3 wide again. Center of all of that is Kwame Scott. He's pushed by the 88 car. Now the lead car's in front, going to drop to the bottom. Thought maybe Kwame wanted to go to the race lead. Instead, he'll drop to the bottom. We always see those unique colors on those Sunoco cars. Tonight, no exception, but look at the chaos off of his perspective. It's hard to focus on the other drivers with how good the paint scheme looks, but it's madness. He's on the bottom of 3 wide again into turn number 3.
I just love when this series comes to super speedways, especially Talladega, because you have so much room to make moves, and so many times throughout the night we're going to be just holding our breath that you can't push when you're 5th in line, and all the moves that these drivers make, they prove why they're the best in the world. Because you go to NAA Fix Lobby, you're not going to see moves of this quality and the saves that we're going to see and the runs that these drivers are going to be able to generate tonight. It's going to be quite something. We are 3 wide all the way through the pack, Evan, and there's not a lane I would say that's the best. I guess you could argue that the bottom, it's easy to fall back a little bit. As you can see, Zawak, he'll drift down to the apron to try to go to the back of the field. But there's so many options, and what a great-looking race car here that Zach Novak has, a Logan's Roadhouse machine.
Yeah, Zawak doesn't like the heat up front, but Novak looks good in the heat. The flames on those 5 car looking nice, but he's got some work to do with a lot of cars up the road from him. He seems pretty content for the moment, all things considered. We're going to see more cars continue to drop to the back as they decide that they do not want to partake in the aggressive festivities early in this race. Going to be a moment of 4 wide, that time at the stripe. Bowden dropping back in the 17. That's that white Ford Mustang on the bottom.
And again, that's one of those situations where they probably should have wrecked. Wilson was pushing Colin Bowden, who, by the way, started in 33rd, got up to the lead, and now is already back at about the 28th position, and it's only lap 6. So that goes to show you, I think, the difference in these drivers and the amount of this race that's in their control to try to make these moves. And the way these races have played out over the last number of years with the draft model updates, where we've seen that now you have side draft, you have the air bubble, you can make these moves. We have seen drivers, Evan, win this race that control it. It's very rare that you see a driver kind of ride around in the back in this opening part of the race and not go to victory lane. Casey Kerwin, Malik Gray, all these drivers that have won at these drafting style tracks recently, they have done so by trying to stay up front the entire race.
And you see all of the movement. The space is the word I picked up from you, right? At Talladega affords. We always compared the space at Talladega compared to the space at Daytona. That was always the conversation. Now you add Atlanta in as a third super speedway. So yes, Malik Gray won at Atlanta. Yes, that was the last time we had a fixed setup. So as we go on board with the iRacing drone here and chase them around, Blake, there is some expectation that if Malik was good there with a fixed setup, he should be good here. But what are the differences besides just the size and the scale compared to Atlanta?
Just the biggest thing, everybody knows it's wide, and you could fit 4 lanes in here if you really wanted to. You can kind of see on the shot that we're on right now that, yes, you have 3 lanes. You could fit a 4th one in there if you really needed to, but just at Atlanta, it's really tough to get 3 lanes working all at the same time. But here at Talladega, you have 3 lanes. Everybody's able to make moves, and there's not necessarily one that is the dominant lane. We've seen the top good early on in this race. We've seen the middle struggle at times. It can fall apart pretty quickly, but you can also make some moves up the middle. We see right now a couple of drivers kind of leading that middle line, trying to make up some time. It's Steven Wilson that is just behind the car that's leading that line. It's Dillon Duval. But again, it all depends on the runs that you have, how well everybody's formed up together. And remember Cozy, who fell back a little bit earlier, he's 4th in line. So it's you're quick to recover in this draft package.
So opportunities aplenty, and already nearly 10 laps into this race. Casey Kerwin leading that last time by the 77 car off to the outside. Now lap traffic coming up as well. Vicente Salas on the bottom. He had to start with the DOL penalty after a pit lane violation at Dover. That immediately is almost a death sentence, just given the drafty nature of this racetrack, Blake, because instantly he's out of the pack, and it only took 8 laps for him to be not at pace and the race leaders to catch him. He's going to try to get assimilated into this pack, but already a lap down.
Well, and Salas kind of has a pretty big task in front of his hands. One, he's the lucky dog, so he wants these drivers to race hard. He wants to miss the wreck. He wants to be able to get the lucky dog, but he also can't be involved in an incident. That would take him out of being eligible for the lucky dog. So as much as he kind of wants the water to boil over in a way, he wants the temperature to be turned up, he doesn't want to be a part of anything. So you can kind of see for right now, probably content to just kind of ride in line there behind Michael Guest for the time being.
3 lanes have been a little bit more sustained the last couple of times around. Still a lot of movement. That time the 48 car of Graham Boland going to go high to mid. He'll leave the middle lane now, leaving that 77 to Kerwin top side, and he gets a big push that time by Dillon Duval. They jump right back up to the outside with no more than an inch or 2 to spare over the nose of the 77.
That takes a lot of trust to be in a 2-car tandem in the middle of the turn, and for both drivers to entirely move a lane as soon as they're clear. That takes a lot of communication. That takes a lot of trust with one another. A couple of drivers in Duval and Boland who have worked together in the past for a very long time. And those are moves you can't just make willy-nilly. You got to be able to really trust one another. As you can see, Tinsley goes up to block the middle, another Alliance teammate he has with Boland, and then they both go up, and you can see right there, Tinsley not quite able to block Boland just at the moment he wanted to. And these are the type of moves that are eventually going to cause something. But again, these drivers are so talented. I can't emphasize enough that the moves you see tonight are something that you cannot replicate just anywhere on the sim.
And in the middle of all of that, let's jump on board with the Coca-Cola onboard camera with the 3 of Jonathan Delaney, but Let's let you feel what Talladega Superspeedway feels like from behind the wheel. You're headed straight on at 33 degrees of banking. As they head into the corner, you'll see the gyro cam inside the car rotate with that banking. It's 32.5 degrees down at the other end of the racetrack, by far the steepest you'll find anywhere.
Well, again, with this gyro cam, you can really see the degree of banking, but when you're sitting behind the wheel, you honestly don't really feel it that much. The sensation of speed, you kind of get at a place more like Bristol than at Talladega, but again, this place is so wide, and the corners they're not necessarily tight. You have a lot of space, and it takes a long time to get through them, so you don't necessarily feel all that. But notice one thing there for Jonathan Delaney, you can hardly see up the road when you're about the 4th or 5th car in line. So when these wrecks happen, it's quick, and you need that spotter that's up. We talk about spotters being crucial at super speedways all the time, and there are plenty of them tonight that are going to earn their money if their driver's going to go to victory lane.
Yeah, that's something that I think we can say it time and time again, Blake, but not everybody picks up on the fact that if you've raced on iRacing recreationally, there's an automatic spotter that'll just tell you when there's cars inside, outside, and that's kind of the extent of it. All of the drivers at this level of sim racing and other series that are comparable have actual live spotters. So somebody else on the team spotting just like you would see on a NASCAR Cup Series race weekend. They're in the session, they're spectating, and they're giving those advanced information in addition to car hard, car low, etc. More so about the runs, where to go, who's where. That's something that people don't always get to see.
No, it's kind of an underrated topic about it. I mean, Graham Boland right now, he's got Jarrett Liebert on his box. He's spotting him and trying to call out where the lanes are coming. How about Nick Ottinger, Brandon Hastings, who's been a long-time setup builder in this series, and by the way, just went to victory lane as a mechanic for Tricon Garage with Corey Heim at Kansas Speedway. He's spotting Nick Ottinger right now. Colin Bowden, who we talked about earlier, fell all the way back, nearly got in an incident. He's already back up in the top 10. He's nearly knocking on the door of the top 5. He's got Blake Bryant up on the spotter stand for him tonight. So a lot goes in, and with how crazy these lanes move and the runs that these drivers get, they're working so hard tonight.
You see the highs and the lows for Bowden. I think it's worth noting that no more than 5 laps ago, he was back in 26th. So not the lowest he had been all night, but we very clearly saw him drop to the back of the inside line. He gets right back into it. So there is plenty of opportunity for drivers to make moves if they want to. Opposite end of the spectrum, let's go with the 55 of Ryan Doucette. He's well back, 38th, last in line on this lead pack, just riding. He's Zelensky, DeMerchant, Honeycutt, taking that kind of conserve and wait approach that you had referenced earlier. As he goes into the corner, he's got a great view of the pack up the road and a little bit of lean to help him through the banking.
Again, 26th on back, really kind of doing their own thing here in a long line at the tail end of the field. You can kind of see them 3 wide through the first 7 or 8 rows or so, but everybody else right now kind of sitting back. Are they saving fuel? Again, we know how much fuel saving has kind of come into the strategy here. The next gen is now Bowden. Just as quickly as he made it up, he's going to fall all the way back. That's how fast that these things can fall apart. As you go to the lead, nobody goes with you when you make a lane change. All of a sudden you're 4 wide, and now you have to take all that time to make up that ground again. And that's where having those friends, those people that you trust, that's why I wanted to ask Malik about it before we went green, is you have to have those drivers around you that you trust, not only to push and be a good pusher, but to go with you in certain instances and be able to make sure that if they're falling, you're able to pick them up. If you're falling through the pack, vice versa, the same thing's going to happen to you. And right now, Bowden, he can drive through the field, but as soon as he gets up there, nobody's really willing to work with him right now.
And Malik also didn't seem too confident when he said that he had maybe 4, but he was already thinking, hey, gets to the white flag, they're probably not sticking with me. There's the obvious duos that we're going to look for, Blake. Obviously, the teammates that we look to be running together a lot of the time. Oh, trouble for the 25! What a save! He still hangs on. Nick Ottinger keeps it out of the wall, and this race stays green after he nearly binned it from the front row.
And that's going to work against him. He almost needed to spin that out. He's going to lose the pack, and that's exactly what can happen as they exit the corner. You have to be aligned perfectly with the car that's in front of you, and Garrett Maines, Nick Ottinger were not. Maines was pushing, got a little bit offset, and then all of a sudden Ottinger goes around. halfway, he saves it. Great job. But unfortunately for him, that's going to cost him the lead draft. He's already lost it, and in about, 8 or 9 laps or so, he's probably going to go a lap down. So unfortunate break there for Ottinger. Garrett Maines continues to go along. How about this? Been a struggle so far in this 2024 campaign for Ray Alfalla, but it's good to see 4-time back in the lead of an eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race.
Running up towards the front, but in the blink of an eye, second in line, because that 10 machine of Steven Wilson gets ahead of him, and we are 3 wide once more in the battle for the lead. It's worth noting, to your point, we saw obviously losing the draft there with the bobble was Nick Ottinger. Second car going to go a lap down here. This car's actually already 2 laps down. Donovan Strauss getting lapped is now going to fall a 3rd lap down. He's 40th, so Vicente Salas, who we documented earlier going a lap down, is still tentatively in that lucky dog position. Eventually, when this lead pack catches up to and passes Nick Ottinger, we'll have a battle between Nick and Vicente in terms of who is established in the lucky dog spot. Almost 20 laps through this 70-lap race at Talladega. The 48 of Graham Bolin now moves top side of the middle lane. He'll link up with that number 29 machine of Jimmy Mullis. They'll drop down to the inside, and Graham Bolin's already led 4 tonight. That doesn't seem like a big number, but that's more than anybody else. We're already looking at a race that has had more than 10 different leaders.
Yeah, that was Strauss. Again, he had a connection issue earlier, so fell 2 down, and now he'll fall a 3rd lap down. But still, it's been aggressive throughout the opening 20 laps. We've seen about 25 or so cars constantly kind of battling for the lead. It simmered a little bit as we've kind of worked to 2 wide, at least up at the front of the field. But you also have to be wary, Evan, of track position when we come down, if it comes to this, for green flag pit stops, which are not going to come anytime soon or within the next 8 or 9 laps, I would say, because you got to be able to make it to the end. But as soon as that window opens, I wouldn't be shocked if a couple of these drivers that have been hanging back, perhaps saving a little bit, try to push their luck a little bit, get towards the front of the field before what would be their green flag stops. Or if we have, a group of, whether it's 5, 10, even 15 drivers that have set a strategy on when they're going to come in, if they're going to pit, if they're going to try and make up time on the pack, whether that's going to happen, I imagine about lap 30 is the marker that we would be looking at for that to take place.
And I do find it interesting, you've got drivers in Wyatt Tinsley and Steven Wilson who have won races this year. They're up front actively fighting for the race lead. But then Leahy, Ray, Zelensky, they're back in a single file tail of this lead pack, just kind of riding around. And it's interesting that drivers who have wins already, different approaches to this race thus far. Some of them want to be up front and some of them want to be at the back. And there's only 1 car, maybe 2, actually running inside of the top 10, Blake, who started inside of the top 10. Bowden, Maines, Alfalla, and Wilson, 1, 2, 3, 4 that time. 33rd, 37th, 31st, and 30th on the grid. My thought would be, if you're just going to drop to the back and ride anyways, what's the point in qualifying up front if you're a Keegan Leahy or Malik Ray? Those guys started on the front row, and right now they're riding around in P30.
I mean, it's a good question. Pretty much the biggest thing is just how your pit, basically your pit stall is selected, which honestly, qualifying up front, if we are going to have green flag pit stops, it's not exactly what you would want to have as that first pit stall. It actually work against you. As we can see, we mentioned earlier, Ray Alfalla up at the front of the field. He's found his way back to the top spot, and just as soon as that happens, he gets abandoned by 2 or 3 cars. And now he's trying to look for a lane to block to keep himself up there. We saw the same exact thing happen to Bowden about half a lap ago. And now Cozy, your race leader, and trying to control every lane out here at Talladega.
97 all over the back bumper. Michael Cozy, Tucker Minter, extremely aggressive in how he pushed the 38 to the race lead and then followed him back up to the outside of the racetrack. And Jonathan Delaney, we were on board with the Wendy's machine a couple of laps back when he was maybe 4 or 5 rows deeper to that inside line. He now leads the bottom of the racetrack and is looking to get up front, looking for his first lap lead of the afternoon. Yet to do so is now the 17 of Bowden's got ahead of steam.
Trying to lead that middle line. And again, I don't know, again, shout out to our graphics department that can update this in real time, because it is changing by the millisecond seemingly, on who's going to be in, who's out. You kind of get a taste here, depending on who's up front. If they're able to stay in the top 20, it wouldn't be Cozy or Delaney right now, who have been struggling a little bit. Bowden and Alfala also would be in the same position, that a win would not put them into the top 20 in points, and therefore wouldn't put them in the playoffs right now. But again, all of this changes so quickly, and I mean, to the degree you can't really keep up with it, right? You have to try and kind of just run your race and try to get everything you can, and I think worry about those points later, as Alfala has a huge run on Colin Bowden. Bowden able to throw the block, and with doing so kind of scatters the rest of the field, 3, almost 4 wide. But Bowden has been aggressive, and he has to be aggressive in blocking, because we've seen a number of times, Evan, 2 or 3 cars, as soon as Bowden leads the line, they duck out of line and leave him behind. So Bowden, I think, is learning he's going to have to really control these lanes if he's going to have a shot.
Cozy currently sitting 3rd in the points in the live standings. Again, he would be in a position to get a race win as he sits in P1. Takes a huge shot that time by the 54 car. Bobbles, keeps it foot in it, and the Generator 38 rolls on the outside now for a moment, a 5-car length advantage. So who bails out of line? The 54 is second. You got Alfala, you got Holmes, you got Bowden. Do any of them go low to steal the momentum for the inside line? That 17 car of Bowden, he comes up to take the middle away, but the 54, the 38, the 69, they all stay in line for the moment up on the outside, as we are 25 down, 45 laps to go here at Talladega. Close it in on the midway point, and that cycle of pit stops.
For these drivers and teams, they're learning early on that as much as we've seen these lanes go back and forth, it has predominantly been the top lane that has performed better, I would say, or created larger runs than what we've seen in the middle portion of the pack. As Casey Kerwin had a huge problem in front of the middle lane, and he's got a ton of damage out of it. So Kerwin, who was leading the middle line, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now has damage that he is going to have to come down and service. So an unscheduled pit stop there for Casey Kerwin, who was pushing Colin Bowden and received a ton of damage in doing so.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anything like that. He was in line, and all of a sudden the front end of the race car took a hit just based on the push, and that car immediately down pit road. Is going to be off cycle A, but also B, how much is that damage going to hurt the 77, and can he get back out there onto the racetrack and try to limit how bad this is going to affect him? This is simply a stop for damage repair, not taking any tires actively. He's going to get fuel on board and leave. Curious just how bad that 77 is off, and if he feels like he's going to be able to get anything back. Maybe if a yellow comes out later, preventing an opportunity, maybe he can come back down pit road and get some of the damage fixed later on. 4 cars advantage to the outside. Your race leader this time, Jimmy Mullis, lap lead number 1, as we close in on halfway home from Talladega. Pit stops coming up next as we close in on midway.
What does fearless look like? Like sliding through a glimmer of daylight? Like trading paint with a champion? Like starting in the back of the pack and stopping at nothing till everyone is choking on your dust? What does fearless look like? Find out for yourself. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Unbelievable! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Do we have your attention yet? Is this the new face of the great American race? Is this how you dance on the razor's edge? How you find a diamond in the desert? How you beat the heat? Will this gladiator be the last one standing? Who's gonna attack from the rest of the pack?
Let's do it.
Last question. Are you not entertained?
Back live at Talladega, where coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola and Wendy's. Discover the Coca-Cola racing family. Order your driver's favorite freestyle drink tonight with the Wendy's app and get $0 delivery and service fees. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. By McConey Setup Shop. Our setups, your victories. And by Sunoco. From fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump, Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco, performance is what we do. Well, the pace of this race continues to stay red hot now. 32 laps this time by, going to be in the back pocket, and we are only 3 away from halfway home. Blake, is the bank open for pit stops?
It is, and it is getting crazy as Dillon Alt had contact with the wall off at 2. It somewhat scattered the field, and again, this is approaching what would be those green flag pit stops. So kind of coming at an inopportune time as the field trying to get organized, get up to the front, try to keep their track position just before what would be the halfway point. Again, they all saved it, but that was close there for Dillon Alt.
And has some issues with Garrett Maines. He's going to get abandoned on the inside of the racetrack as he had a bit of a connection to blip that time into 3, and everybody left him topside. That outside line now but an 8th car length advantage. Let's look back though, Blake, a second look at that near incident that caused the big checkup and shakeup.
Yeah, I can see the same exact thing we saw earlier between Garrett Maines and Nick Ottinger. Just a bump that wasn't central there for Dillon Alt. So he gets out of shape, and unfortunately for him, that hit was hard enough that aerodynamically that car is damaged, so he's not going to be able to continue here and keep up to speed with the rest of the pack. People scattered, and they went to the apron, but nobody wrecked, so we continue to roll.
So Dillon Alt joins the list that includes Salas, Ottinger, Kerwin, and Strauss. Other drivers who have had issues, those bottom 5 have lost touch with the leaders. Also, there is a group to the tail end of this lead pack. You just see the 4 of them there, very top of your screen, kind of at risk of maybe losing touch. I think they're going to be okay now that they've gotten back in line, but certainly those 5 names I mentioned need a yellow to be able to get some pit service, get those cars fixed, get a wave around or 2, and get back into this conversation. Lot number 35 in the works right now, going to be halfway home next time by. Colin Bowden leading the middle lane, bit of a stack up with the Tony Kanani sports cars behind him, and the 11 and the 66, and now the 7 car. Malik Ray going topside. If we tried to call every move, Blake, I think we'd run out of oxygen. That's how often they're moving Dyson, going all over the place. I don't know who's moving it more, the cars on track or the positions on those playoff points that you were so desperately trying to tell us about.
And oh, by the way, we're not even halfway. We'll come around this time and be halfway home in this race. And I don't think we're any wiser to know. We know who's been aggressive. We know the types of moves that these drivers have made. They've been learning that throughout the running of this race, but so much can happen here in a short amount of time. We haven't really mentioned Ryan Lews's name at all tonight. He's running third right now, seemingly out of nowhere. Matthew Zwack, who remembered kind of bailed out of the pack Denny Hamlin style a little bit earlier. He's now the sixth car that's lined up on the inside lane. So much can change. And again, it's all about executing, getting on the pit road, not speeding, not making a mistake. If there's one thing in a super speedway race that can ruin your night, it's not being able to get down on the pit road under green flag conditions.
Yeah, there's 38 cars in the lead lap. 17 of them have led laps. We take a look at the 80 car of Ryan Lewis. SeatGeek on his Ford Mustang tonight. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of NASCAR. Get real tickets to real races right from your mobile device. You can buy and sell tickets to NASCAR races and any other live events like concerts, sports, and more. SeatGeek is the most disruptive idea in ticketing. Is the ticket that works. Expect the unexpected. That is SeatGeek on board Ryan Lewis' number 80 car in this race tonight. Ryan currently running back in that number 3 spot, just kind of hanging out in the line. He has yet to lead a lap tonight, but is in prime position to do so, but also being on the bottom lane in the preferred spot to get down pit road. Obviously, if you're up on that third lane, that's a decent indicator. You're probably not trying to get to pit road yet, and right as I mentioned it, at least 4 cars break away and come down for the first time tonight, make it 5.
Now, that is one of those things. So, okay, so we see about 4 or 5 drivers who pit. How many are going to respond to this that were in the pack? And is 4 or 5 cars enough? I think that's a valid question to ask in terms of the rest of this pack. Are they slowing each other down, side drafting? Are they losing time? Or is 4 going to be kind of a magic number where you can link up and make up time on the pack? I don't know if 4 cars is going to be enough to do that. So we'll see how long their pit stop takes and whether they're able to get off pit lane, do all those things well. And you also have to exit together. How many times we saw the Toyotas do it in the NASCAR Cup Series race that, yes, they exited pit road together, but they wrecked each other pushing one another. That's something that could also happen. So we'll see if they make up time, how many drivers respond, and it looks like, 7 or 8 or so are going to head for pit lane now.
It's going to be Falkenham, White, Zwack, Wilson, Bowden, Olaton, Boson, and Tinsley down pit road. I didn't find it interesting in that first group of 5, Blake, some cars took 2 tires, others took 4, but they all left at about the same time.
That's interesting. Again, I think you got to get with your group and communicate with one another. Oh, okay, how many are we taking? Are we taking 2? Are we taking 4? How much fuel are we going to add? Are we going to fill it up all the way? You don't necessarily have to with how far we went over the course of this run. But I think that's something that as a group you have to decide together. I don't like hearing that some did 2, some did 4, some filled up, some didn't. I like having it be synonymous as, one wrecking onto the apron, Holmes saves it, and that would be off the racing surface, so we stayed green. And by the way, he made it down to pit road speed, so an incredible drive there from Timmy Holmes to get down on the pit lane.
Book that as a save. He got to the apron to pit, but there was contact above him, and the 14 car got knocked down into his door. That was DeMerchant. Thought that car was certainly going to wreck, but not only did he save the race car, he got down to pit road speed on pit road in time, and I think is not going to lose too much. I think maybe forced to go for the 4 tires if he wasn't already planning on it just for how long he locked up those tires. But Timothy Holmes is going to leave pit road with the pack in which he pitted. That is an excellent recovery for him. And for the 4th lap in a row, big trip down pit road, maybe the biggest pack yet.
This is why I hate pitting with a ton of cars. You have to give everybody room. It's so easy to spin or make a little mistake. But it looks like everybody able to get through without much of an issue there with essentially the rest of the pack coming down and pitting. So great job there to execute that. This is everybody who has pit so far. So Wilson and Scott, you can see kind of leading that line. It looks like everybody was able to get through well. You can see kind of a pack of 4 that are trying to latch onto them, but for now it looks like everybody got in and got out okay. Haven't noticed any black flags or anything like that yet.
Maybe don't want to pit with only 4, but you likely also don't want to pit with 19. Seems easy enough, right? I mean, on your own, it's super easy to get in and out of pit road here at Talladega, but when you mix all those other variables in, it is one of the trickier dances we'll see all season long. So now we cycle back through the 10 with a big head of steam. Steven Wilson, pushed by the 53 of Parker White, are going to blow by those cars on the outside and cycle through to the lead. They simply pitted 3 laps ago. They've had that many laps to be able to get organized, draft, and get back up to speed. So Wilson, White, Falkenham, Zawak, and Luza go to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as we have completed wholesale green flag pit service.
All right, so that group of about 7 or 8, Tinsley, Luzes, Whack, Falkingham, Parker White, Steven Wilson, you can see the result of it here. They're able to gain some track position. How long they're going to be able to keep it? Well, with what we've seen in this pack, it's not going to be very long, but at least for now, they're going to start this final run up at the front of the field, getting off of pit road fast and getting into your stall, being able to form up with the pack as you get out onto the racetrack. So perfectly executed. They did what they wanted to do. But all that does is set them up at the front with a 30-lap sprint to the end. So no guarantee of success, but you get to start in a good position.
Yeah, I suppose it's better to start up front than towards the back, but it's been hard to sting up there with how many drivers have been able to drive through the field. Steven Wilson in the 10 car started way back in 30th spot. He is leading now, and I don't know if there's a hotter driver in eNASCAR right now, Blake. A defending eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion, and just last week added a College Series championship to the resume as well.
Impressive there for Steven Wilson, who's able to get the job done in the Coke Series and different types of vehicles, different types of series. And not only that, I mean, again, he's your defending race winner. He's your defending champion. He has 2 wins already this year. And yet here he is in a race where anybody can win. And yet he is still leading the race, if only for maybe another second or so, as Zach Novak tries to make a move. Malik Ray now going to go to the bottom and try to take the top spot. So Steven Wilson, again, continuing to impress. The last 2 or 3 years or so, he has been just incredible to watch how he's been able to run in this series.
Field's going to have to constrict up as that 40 car of Dillon Alt gets lapped on the inside of the racetrack. It'll put him 4 wide for a moment in the tri-oval, but more than enough space for the leaders and everybody in the lead pack to be able to get on by. That happens without incident. Alton going to drop a lap down to the number 38 spot. The 12 of Garrett Maines also started back there with Wilson, started 31st in the field. His 12 cars in the mix. The bottom's all kinds of out of shape. That's going to benefit Maines up on the outside as he's pushing the 10 of Wilson.
Yeah, Ray it was actually Keister who was just behind Malik Ray that got out of shape, and even that second car in line having issues like that. You can see just how out of sorts that gets that line, and I mean, just look at the intensity here for Garrett Maines. Zeroed in, not blinking, looking up, looking at the back of Steven Wilson. Again, trying to line up. Remember, he spun Nick Ottinger a little bit earlier in the race, didn't bring out a caution, but Ottinger lost the draft. And again, there's so many drivers that have the opportunity to win this race, Evan. 31 cars attached to this lead pack. We dropped Timothy Holmes, Cody Bias, Derek Bordeaux, Seth the Merchant, and Vicente Salas out of that cycle. 31 cars still have an opportunity to win this race, and I don't think they're going to be waiting too much longer with 26 to go.
Yeah, we've seen some sketchy pushes so far tonight. It is only going to get more and more aggressive. Look at that 4 wide towards the tail end of this lead pack. Now, if you're that 12 car in Garrett Maines, second in line topside, pushing Wilson, Blake, does it matter that that's a Toyota pushing a Ford? Do those noses have that same issue that we've heard throughout the years?
The hitboxes here in iRacing are going to be pretty much the same across each of these cars. So they line up fairly well. And again, we know how sturdy these next-gen cars are, and you've seen it a time or two where the leader of a line can check up a lot, and then boom, that car smacks them from behind and can hit them pretty hard. So not really much of a difference in terms of these cars and which ones can push better than others.
And I think that's just going to give these drivers that added confidence, them knowing that full well that they can push anybody who they're lined up with. We take a quick peek on the board with Taylor Hurst, both off of his front car, and also the onboard look with him back at home in the bottom right-hand corner. Steven Wilson was chewing gum. Taylor Hurst is taking deep breaths. I don't know how any of these drivers are staying this calm in this pack, but at 24 to go this time by, you're going to start to see the stress levels ramp up. We've seen a couple of mistakes, but we've got away with them. Can that continue all the way through the end of this race. Nobody on the inside line right now. They're top and middle, and now moving down to the middle lane is Garrett Maines in the 12. They'll try to drag them down to the inside as they head down the Alabama gang back straightaway once more. And you said it, this 31-car lead pack, big block that time. Garrett Maines shuts the door on the 29 of Mullis. These 30-some-odd cars are separated only by 1.2 seconds, and they're 4 wide again.
Again, these blocks, my blood pressure is picking up. My heart rate's picking up just watching this. Not just from a Jake Gensel goal, 3-2 Canes, let's go. But Garrett Maines, my goodness, what a block there. And you can see the difference. We just talked about how hard you can kind of slam these cars. He was able to get down there. There's probably a 6 or 7 mile per hour difference. And yet if you're lined up perfectly, he was still able to be pushed by Jimmy Mullis, who is trying to split the gap. Now Maines is left hung out to dry on the top side. Wilson now going to pick up Garrett Maines. My goodness, this is just some crazy stuff. And again, 23 laps to go. It's anybody's ball game up here at the front.
I don't often consider myself a pessimist, but those 23 laps still left on the board look awfully long for us to be able to race like this to the end. Small 4-car break. They'll jump topside, looking to the bottom in that group and dropping down to the inside without any help. The 38 of Cozy, he will have to wait for the 23 machine to catch up. That's Keegan Leahy on the bottom. No interest in helping the 38. They'll go to the top side, and it's going to be from hero to zero for Cozy. Blink of an eye, he's outside of the top 15 just like that. And Malik Ray, who started up front, dropped back and rode around in the 30s before pit cycles. He is back on the front row.
And how about Michael Guest? Hung around in the back pretty much with Malik Ray, who, by the way, Malik Ray kind of was patient in the opening 20 laps of this race or so. He lost the lead. He went to the back. Now he's up front being a factor in these things. And, you know, as much as we talk about this is an opportunity race for any of these drivers, and indeed it is, with how crazy these moves are as Ray goes to the bottom, but yet time and time again through these super speedways that we've had in this next-gen era, same names we see up front controlling these races. Malik Ray, Casey Kerwin, who unfortunately had his issue earlier, but Colin Keister, Michael Guest, same names that are up front.
And this is just going to continue to ramp up. Who makes a mistake first? Who puts themselves in position when it matters the most? Malik Ray to the high side of the inside, try to make that car as wide as this racetrack.
The question is, how long can he get that to work? Is now on the bottom. Leahy sideways as he was getting a shove from Vicente Salas, and that's something that we're going to have to be looking at here over the next couple of laps, as we do have some lap traffic that's starting to get kind of interspersed with this field. Salas leading the middle lane. He's in 36th right now. He's scored, I believe, not just one down. No, it is just one down. So battling for a lucky dog right now, but Vicente Salas, despite the fact that he's a lap car, Evan, he has as much of an influence over the outcome of this race as anybody right now.
Well, Keegan Leahy is doing a good job. He's up and in the battle. There's a look at the Halifax, Nova Scotia native. And if you missed it on Countdown to Green, we had the chance earlier to talk with Austin Dillon, of course, team owner of Team Dillon Esports, about the fact that 2311 has hired Keegan Leahy to drive for their team as a sim driver. So we asked him, could we see more of that in the future?
I think so. You're seeing more and more, and we have guys that come in and let's see. My brother comes and runs sessions, and Christian Eckes, Anthony Alfredo is another guy that's done really well in iRacing that is a Team Dillon guy that works for HMS, and he's been doing a lot of their sessions. So, yeah, no, I think it's handy and helpful because, you know, when you're really busy doing a lot of different things for NASCAR and your partners, it's tough sometimes to spend the time that you need in the sim, or it can get frustrating because, you know, it's not going to be perfect. You're working off something that is created in the computer. It's not, you know, real life. We're trying to do our best to trick ourselves to get it as close as possible. And when you start throwing in motion in the simulator, it gets really tough. But the static rigs, I think, are very comparable. You use your eyes to kind of see the travel in the car and feel what you're looking for. But yeah, no, I think it's very helpful, and the guys in the iRacing world that do well also do well in the sim world when it comes to NASCAR.
And the folks over at 2311 Racing have openly credited Keegan Leahy with assisting that team to a lot of their success.
And that, sorry, I was just watching the action. We saw 4 wide. Colin Bowden had to save his car. He was on the apron in 1 and 2. And he's able to collect it back up. It kind of caused a huge stack up here on the bottom. Again, you can see the updates of the points as Leahy continues to try and lead and fight his way back into the top 20. As it stands right now, he would be in the top 20. So not only would he have a win, he would be, well, now he's out. So that's how much it changes lap by lap.
He's got to be in that top spot. That seems to be the points benchmark. Leahy entered tonight 28th in the points. He's already a race winner this season back in Las Vegas. But remember, those wins do not count towards automatic playoff eligibility if you do not maintain top 28 points. So Leahy needs to have a good run tonight. A win would be good for the sake of a win, but what Keegan right now needs is the points associated with a win to allow those trips to victory lane to count towards playoff qualification for him. Not in the best spot right now, though. He and the 38 car are cozy on the bottom without much help, and they're going to watch the middle and the outside lines pull by them on the exit of 4. They'll drop outside of the top 10 just like that. That outside line in the middle have the strength in numbers right now.
That they do, and as soon as we get formed up 3 wide, it just seems like the bottom is a lane where you can sustain, but you're not going to be able to go forward. If you're going to try to make moves, you're going to have to go to the middle. You're going to have to go to the top. Now, by the way, that includes falling back. If you go to those lanes as well, it's easier to lose positions, but to be able to, I think, make those passes, you have to be willing to go there. It's, one car into the wall. That was Jimmy Mullis. Saw a little bit of smoke as he was kind of scraping the wall. Everything's okay. No further issues. Still 3 and 4 wide further back in the pack. Wilson trying to make a move for the lead. Salas is a lap car and is blocking Wilson for the top spot. Now, Salas wouldn't be a lucky dog. He's at the tail end of the lead lap right now, so he's trying to get his lap back the old-fashioned way right now, but he nearly spun in front of the field.
Yeah, it was a bold move, and now 4 wide we go. The 5 is Zach Novak, going to put it to the inside, and it is getting awfully tight here at Talladega. The 11 instigating, the lucky dog trying to get back onto the lead lap. Look at the move there to the outside. The 88 car tries to sidestep, but Fulkingham shuts the door on him. The Interstate Batteries car going to stay wide. Lapped cars to the inside, going to limit the space for the leaders. It's going to force us to go 4 wide again.
And again, I know there's going to be a lot of people that look at what Salas is doing and say, hey, lap car, get out of the way. You know what I would look at this as, Evan? An opportunity. If I'm somebody who's trying to win this race, why not hook up with Vicente Salas right now? You can push him, he can push you, and you can help each other win this race. If Salas, if you're pushing him in front of you, who cares? You're still the leader if you're leading everybody else. So as much as, and I'm sure there's some folks in this pack who aren't very happy with the fact that he's battling up there with him right now, I'd look at it the opposite way. Can I help him help me in a way? And right now we'll see if somebody's willing to do that.
They use him as a means to an end and work with each other, and it wouldn't be the worst thing if I'm Seth the Merchant, second car lap down for Vicente to be successful here, because right now Vicente's 8-9 rows up the track. He's going to get the lucky dog, not me. I'm sure Seth would prefer the 11 to unlap himself, because then it would give Seth that position, and they could both be on the lead lap if/when something happens. 4 wide in the battle for P3 as pushed back to the race lead. Steven Wilson leads his 10th lap of the night. There's smoke and a spinner towards the back. Now the 55's into the outside wall, and we couldn't get away with it forever. Caution flag number 1 at lap 58.
Kind of 2 separate incidents that happened all at the same time that all started with kind of just a late move up to the top. Is I believe it was one of the KHI cars, they were running nose to tail, that made a move up to the top side, caused a huge stack up, and I believe it was Honeycutt that got into the back of them, and just too much happening when they were 4 wide. And then after that, Doucette was trying to hang on to it as they entered turn 1. He couldn't save it. So a lot happening here, and it took nearly, 60 laps for us to see this first caution flag of the night.
Like I said, I'm not much of a pessimist, but it just seemed like we were not going to be able to continue to get away with it. And We got away with a couple of close calls early, recently, but just couldn't get away with the 2 for 1. And let's take a second look at both of what happened here. First, how it starts. Coming past the start-finish line and into turn number 1, it's the 48 car, Graham Bolin. He's going to move topside. It's going to check up the 8 machine, to your point. That was Honeycutt. That's the first big spin there. They go down to the apron. The 33 machine of Hurst has got some damage. They're wrecking anyways. But then ahead of them, a whole separate accident around the 55.
Yeah, I mean, Honeycutt just could not react in time to that. And then Doucette trying to kind of find his bearing right there, right in front of Graham Bolin. Bolin has nowhere to go. If anything, Honeycutt may have actually come out of it mostly unscathed, but a couple of required repairs. Doucette was just leading this race. He has required repairs. So does Jonathan Delaney. And the 3, looks like Jordy Lopez took a pretty hard hit to the outside wall as well. But the gloves were already off, but now I think these drivers have a little bit of time to decompress here for a second, realize what's at stake. This is going to get crazy.
This will bridge us inside of 10 laps to go, and if you thought they weren't already driving recklessly enough, it is going to be some of the craziest racing we will see all year long. We've already been to Daytona. We've been to Atlanta. There is no other track like these super speedways on the calendar after tonight. So again, the opportunity that these plate tracks provide, there's going to be a lot of desperate drivers who feel like this is maybe their last best shot at going to victory lane and maybe turning an 18th, a 17th in the points into a playoff eligible position. The 88 machine of Briar LaPrade is third on track. Blake, you're dialed up with him.
Briar sitting up here at a great spot here, but I know 11 laps to go. It'll eventually get down to 9. I think by the time we go green, it's a long ways off. I guess what's kind of your mentality here going in to this late stretch of the race?
I don't know, Blake. I'm scared. I just want to hold my hand and take me to the front and hopefully push me to the win. But just hoping for the best. I haven't been too good on super speedways here recently. I've gotten lucky a couple times, but yeah, I feel good about this one. Just got to try and pick the right lane, right time, and Steven's been doing really good pushing me, so if I could have him behind me, that would be awesome. I was pushing Zach earlier, so everything's looking good. Just gotta get a little lucky, and hopefully that happens. And yeah, we're gonna try and go get a win.
Well, now that you're tied with your teammate for 10th in the point standings, I know a win can certainly change your season, but as far as how aggressive these moves that you're making, does the fact that you're in a good points position right now, not to say does that hold you back a little bit, but is it not just it's not a must-win situation for you, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been having a really good season. Shout out to everyone at Team Conti for bringing us good stuff. And like I said, we've gotten lucky a couple times this year, but we've been having a really solid year. So if this happens to be a bad race for us, it is what it is. But a win would just be nice because there's a lot of different winners so far, and to be one of those few that have won already would be nice because you never know. We had one year where 10 plus won, so just want to try and be locked in for $100,000 at the end of the year, hopefully, or just at least fighting for it.
All right, well, you're in a good number here at Talladega. We'll see if you can end up in victory lane.
Briar LaPrade started this race in the number 10 spot. He's been up front for a lot of it. He has led 3 laps and is going to line up to the inside of row number 2. That's going to put him behind the 10 of Wilson, the control car, and alongside the 18 of Zelensky, who's going to be to the outside in 4th. Zelensky, only car top 6 who hasn't led a lap tonight. Let's take one more look at that accident on board with Matthew Zawak. Dodges the first wreck, and then they wreck again in front of him, and he dodges 2. That's not bad for one corner.
Again, that's why he's my Road to Pro spotter. He knows exactly where to go and call him out. So a great job there from Matthew Zwack. And, you know, I think LaPrade kind of gave us an interesting nugget towards the end of that interview, is the fact that, you know, during these races, you have the opportunity to kind of prove yourself to your competitors. And he made a good note. I want Steven Wilson pushing me. We've worked really well together. Zach Novak and I have worked well together. Those are things you learn over the course of a race. So the fact that he's lined up behind Steven Wilson right now, again, when you have that confidence, when you've been working well together, I think that bodes really well if your Brian LaPrade gives you some confidence to be able to make some moves.
On the row number 3 there, it's Ray Alfala, Tyler Gary. They'll be running just in line behind LaPrade and Zelensky, who I had touched on earlier. And, of course, lining them up by 2 by 2. Who's going to be the first car to step out of line? Who makes the third lane? And do we see 4 as we get down to the end? This could be the final restart of the night. Going to be 9 laps to go at the start-finish line. Wilson in control on the bottom. Novak to the outside. Green flag back in the air.
So oftentimes when you're the leader at these super speedways, you won't see the leader launch. You'll let the flagman start the race. Wilson got a launch. He had to go up to the top side as a result. So you allow the pack to get a run on you, so we'll see if Wilson can hang on. Right now, LaPrade, Alfala lined up on the inside row, enough to at least clear to the lead for now. Is LaPrade going to go to the top? Yes, he does. So that's one of those moves there.
Thought about
Wilson going early on that restart, that probably hurt him a little bit.
Yeah, and Wilson thought about going high on the 88. He kind of flinched when LaPrade came up, but there was no room to the outside wall. He stays in line. Now center of 3 and 4. The 5 going to go to the outside. LaPrade saw that one coming, shuts the door, and it's all gone wrong for Steven Wilson. Dropping like a stone in the 3rd lane in the middle. He'll be outside of the top 10 after bringing us to the green flag. Only 2.6 miles to go. Crossover for LaPrade. He'll go to the middle lane. Doesn't lead at the stripe, though. It's Falkenham on the bottom.
Oh, and yes, that's Alfala kind of blocking that second group. Stacked him up really bad, but Bowden was able to get to the back of him. Falkingham with the huge block went down to the bottom. He's now tandemed up. Now, again, one thing that these drivers do so well is you can't stay hooked up forever. You can see Novak right there. You have to lift. You can stay hooked up for about a lap at this point after a restart before you overheat. Zelensky with a huge block. Novak and LaPrade, they're all blocking, and it's not going to work out. Novak and a couple of cars hard into the outside wall as about 4 drivers back to back to back made a blocking move, and well, that just ended up being one too many.
Yeah, like dominoes. They just blocked one after the other, and eventually that delay just ran out of time, and it stacked them all up on the outside. The 42 looked like he was made with the big run up on the outside of the racetrack. That was Tyler Gary looking to establish the 3rd lane, but when the middle caught wind of it, all 3 of them, one after the other, went to block, and the one who got spit out of line was that 5 machine of Novak, who got spun from behind. It was contact with the 18 machine of Bobby Zelensky, and there was a part of me who thought maybe they were going to hold it again. We got away with so much early in this one, but when you're just on top of each other like that, there's no room for somebody to bobble and recover. And I think the 22 ended up coming down the hill, and they were 3 wide under them. So at that point, that's what really sent all the cars up the hill and wadded them up. Let's watch it again. You're looking for the blocks from the 3 cars on the outside, and a bit of a lag. There goes the 18 top side, then the 5, then the 88, and it stacks them up.
Yeah, I was about to say that all starts with Tyler Gary trying to make a move. He has Kwame Scott behind him. He's formed up on the outside lane. Zelensky makes a block, and they make contact front nose to tail. And then as soon as they get hooked up, Novak reacts to that. He makes contact with Zelensky. LaPrade wants to keep the lead, and here we see Matthew Swack again. He has been busy tonight.
I think he had a good hire there, and knowing how to navigate some stuff as Zawak dodges another one. You'd think for the 2 last replays we looked on the board with him, he'd passed about 40 cars avoiding wrecks, but Zawak only right now running in the number 18 spot. So with some work to do, he pitted under the last yellow. There's more cars down pit road this time, obviously, for some repairs as well. Blake, our driver, starting to think maybe we need a little bit extra fuel for overtime, or because we did see a variance of 2 and 4 tires under the green flag pit stop. Is there anything you can gain by coming down for tires at this point?
I don't think so. Handling we've seen just hasn't really been a factor. The only time you get sideways is when you get a bad push from somebody. So tires, certainly not going to be the factor. It's either damage or fuel, which again, with the fact that we may be set here for potential overtimes on the horizon, that's something that if that's a problem you got to take care of, you got to do it now before a lot of those green-white checkers would come. Now, you can see Tinsley, he was involved in an incident earlier. They've gotten most of the damage on that 20 car repaired. And same thing, he slows down and is able to escape from that one unscathed.
So his Kansas City Pioneers machine makes it through. I referenced the team on that car for reason, Blake, and it goes all the way back to the conversation we had with Malik Ray at the very start of the night, talking about who he had planned on working with and maybe questioning just how loyal those alliances are, right? There's the obvious duos of the teams. There's also those technical alliances, right? Much like when you see at the big super speedway races in the Cup Series, the Fords work with the Fords, the Toyotas with Toyotas, etc. It's not necessarily manufacturer forward here, but there are technical alliances as well that span across teams where drivers will have an inherent interest in helping each other as well. But when it gets inside of 5 to go, can you count on even your closest teammate helping you?
I think you can count on them until about the last lap or so. Even Malik said, hey, I got about 4 or 5 friends out here, but I can't rely on them on the last lap. Again, you can't make hero solo moves in this package until the very end, and I mean in the trioval with this package. When you try to make those moves in 3 and 4, it's not going to work out. You're not going to win, and man, just scraped a little bit there with Kwame Scott. Cozy looks like he's able to make it through. Was running up towards the front a little bit earlier on. That's just how quickly these things happen, but yeah, it's you got to have somebody to commit to, and oftentimes I think with this package, since we've seen these physics updated, that's the downfall I think of a lot of super speedway drivers is they make those winning moves, but they make them in turn 1 or turn 2. It's far too early, and it's very hard to make those moves without anybody helping you. If you duck out of line and go on your own in turn 3, you're gonna end up with the entire field hardly making their way by you. So it's one of those things you have to be committed to almost to the very end.
As we approach the restart, we are going to be still inside of regulation. There will be 4 laps to go the next time by. Of course, we need to complete 3 clean laps to get to the white flag for this race to be official. If we get to the white, it does not matter what happens from that point on. We race to the end no matter what. A yellow before that would take us to overtime, and we'll talk more about that if we need to. Another look at the accident, this time the 36 of Kwame Scott. We looked at that Sunoco Chevrolet earlier tonight. Maybe a bit of a scratch on the right front sticker on that nose, but other than that, that Camaro sneaks on through clean enough. And Kwame will get set to restart this race as he finds himself still in contention in the number 15 spot. Falkenham on the front row, Parker White to his outside. Wilson led us to the green the last time by, and it was atrocious. He got kind of out of line or too good of a start, had to jump to the outside to try to get a line, got swallowed up in 1 and 2, dropped back 3 wide. He's P26. We'll see if Falkenham can do a bit of a better job at controlling things up front. I think it's fitting that the Interstate Batteries machine is on the front row because it's going to be an electric finish here at Talladega. And don't forget about those 1,000 extra feet as you got to come down to the start-finish line to take it home. Maybe for the final time tonight, 4 laps to go, green flag in the air.
Same deal, Falkenham clears, he gets up to the top, he goes back to the bottom. White wasn't willing to push him, is now Bowden with Parker White, Dillon Duval, 3-4 cars all lined up, side drafting and pushing each other. Bowden's out of shape with Pratt and Falkenham trying to go to the top, and that's not going to work. Parker White turned around in front of the field as LaPrade spinning as well, and the caution flag is out yet again.
Second time in a row, it's almost too good of a launch through the gears for the control car. Falkenham went high, then went back down low. It started to check them all up, and then once those runs started to come off of the corner, again, they started blocking up top, and I don't know if LaPrade necessarily moved up into the space of that third lane, or if maybe White thought about going middle, but they kind of ended up half in each other's lane. And when that 53 turned sideways, it was done for. LaPrade got tagged in the right rear, and at least a dozen race cars got collected in that one. And Breyer told us he was scared, maybe rightfully so, because there's not a lot you can do when they're chomping at your heels like that.
No, there's not. And again, we have seen a number of accidents so far tonight that all stem from drivers trying to go to the top lane. Again, that is something that these drivers have learned, that the third lane is where you want to be. You don't want to be stuck in the middle and have both lanes side drafting you. You don't want to be stuck on the bottom with nowhere to go. And with that, I mean, Parker White is just innocently running along. Bowden and Duvall are all formed up. They're all slamming each other pretty hard. They're bump drafting. And White has to barely react to LaPrade and Falkingham's move coming up to the top. He gets out of the gas a little bit, but Bowden is already right on him. You can see, look at those two green cars. They shoot up the racetrack, and White just lifts a little bit, but Bowden has nowhere to go. He has a car that's bumping him. Duvall has a car that's bumping him as well. So there's nothing almost that they can do. As we see Caden Honeycutt, this is all happening right in front of him. He reacts to it, and sometimes you got to hit the brakes, sometimes you got to hit the gas to miss a wreck. And Honeycutt, good instincts there, hits the gas and is able to clear himself of that.
Honeycutt able to sneak on through the 8-car 16th in the running order. And this race will officially now head into eNASCAR overtime. I didn't want to sound not very optimistic. I gave that 4 laps to go call everything it deserved, Blake, but I think this is the eventual result that we had all expected. Once we got that yellow at about lap 58 after having gone green for most of this race, 3 yellow flags since that point, you just seem to, you can't really get away with a late race yellow in a race like this.
No, you can't, and at this point, it's all just about getting to the white flag, because we'll play it through if we get to that white flag. But until then, a lot can happen. Daniel Falkingham catching up with the driver of the 54, having a sophomore surge in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series career. But Daniel, you've been a part of so many of these super speedway races that have happened on the service with very aggressive racing. How do you think that sets you up here for the end and trying to make these moves in overtime?
Yeah, it's just me being the leader. It's just such a vulnerable position where it seems like no matter where I go, they're gonna try to go the opposite of me. Just trying to control these restarts the right way, and yeah, just how huge the runs are. It's just so hard trying to block them and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna try our best to hang on here, but we're gonna need literally everything to go right for us to hang on here. But I just can't believe I'm even up here controlling these restarts at the end of this race, going into a GWC. So thankful for that, but hopefully we can bring this car home in one piece and score some good points. If not, hopefully we can park this thing in the winner's circle in a few laps time. But just so hard to really just manage the runs and all that with just how huge the runs are.
All right, Daniel, I know you got a lot going through your mind. We'll let you get back after it. Good luck. Maybe we'll see you on the other side of it.
I hope so, Blake. Thanks.
He's got the best seat in the house as he's up front. Maybe the worst, though, because they're all going to be in his rearview mirror. Let's take a look and remind you all of our familiar friend, and that is eNASCAR Overtime. We will have 3 attempts maximum to finish this race under green. When we take the green flag, it will be 2 laps to go. If we make it all the way around and take the white flag, the race will be official. And again, where we differ from NASCAR racing in real life is obviously it's a simulator. We don't need to send any safety vehicles out after an accident, so it does not matter what happens after the white flag is thrown. This race will end under green and at the checkered flag no matter what. If a yellow comes out before we take to the white flag, we'll re-rack and we'll try it again and move on to another attempt. If we run out of attempts and get a yellow before the white on that 3rd and final attempt, the race would end under caution at that point. That's how this one will shake out. And you know these drivers are going to be aggressive from the jump. We'll remind you one last time, if you want the latest news and updates from the world of eNASCAR, then scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and sign up today, because Yeah, we're halfway through this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series regular season, Blake, but earlier we were talking about a college series championship. There's so much more in the world of eNASCAR, and if folks scan that QR code, they can get in the loop, because I know it seems early, and you can, debate that, but we're already talking internally on the sim about 2025 qualifications, so there's a lot of news out there, and of course, if you want to start your sim racing career today, they can get that at iRacing.com.
Well, again, I was driving the COT at Daytona, the car tomorrow, the 87 car at Talladega, and the truck at Darlington, all just today. And then we get to watch this race. So there's a lot going on. This type of racing is crazy. It's fun. It's insane. And, of course, if you want to find more about getting to this point, not just introducing yourself to an iRacing career, but trying to be a part of this series, you can visit iRacing.com/eNASCAR.
And that's why we say on iRacing, every day is race day. Pace car off this time. Falkingham Minter on the front row. Can the 54 get some home cooking on the front row? Or is he going to struggle like the last two control cars of the past? It is going to be green-white checker, attempt number 1 of 3 here at Talladega. They look to the flag stand. Green flag in the air, 2 laps to go.
Falkingham did not go early. He let the flagman bring that out. That's going to keep them stacked up too wide. Guest tried to make a move with Cozy. They got out of shape. So now 3 lanes working. Matt Booster trying to lead that middle line, but the bottom 4 cars all lined up for now. Falkingham getting a shove from Colin Bowden.
Falkingham's going to bring it all the way up the hill, but it's not going to matter. Crashing behind. Honeycutt in front of the field. There they go again. It all started on the bottom while our eyes were up on the outside of the racetrack. We were watching Falkingham and the 17 of Bowden go bottom to high. You had mentioned it earlier. These drivers have figured out they want to be on the outside of the racetrack. And as that was happening, there wasn't too much on the bottom that stood out. It was just a little bit of a checkup, and I think, Blake, amplified by the fact that it happened on corner exit. You would have mentioned that on some of the previous accidents. It's not really a place you can afford to have that happen, and when you check up and you get into each other on that spot on the racetrack, it's going to be very unforgiving, and at some point the 8 car got turned. We'll wait to see a second look, and then it collected about a handful of other cars.
And again, this is all happening, 15th, 20th on back, but it's because if you can form up the perfect run, you can win from that position. If you get the right bumps, everything works, the lanes work in your favor. So let's take another look at it. Yeah, Honeycutt, you're the 3rd or 4th car in line, gets a shove from Mullis, and there's just nowhere he can go at that point. He's just kind of along for the ride, and that's where we've seen a lot of these accidents. It's not necessarily up at the front in line. It's when you're getting drove through. You can see Mullis, Salas is shoving him. He's getting shoved by Dillon Alt, so it's hard to pin that on the car that's just right behind Honeycutt, because if you're lifting, you're getting shoved by somebody else. And, those are the type of situations and moves that, we didn't see early on. We went nearly 60 laps green, but here in overtime, everybody's trying to make up their lane and push their lane forward. Those are the type of accidents you're going to see, because nobody's holding back at this point.
And they almost wrecked prior to that on the way into turn number 1 when the 45 car went up to block. That was Michael Guest, saw the 38 of Cozy going topside in his mirror. He turned aggressively across his nose, and I don't know how the wreck wasn't there, because that 45 car slid about 8 feet up to the outside wall.
It's a hard impact. I'm trying to listen in to see if these drivers are saving fuel. Right now, nobody's clutching or anything up here at the front, so I believe everybody should be good. This would be the 2nd of our 3 overtime attempts. And now if you're Daniel Falkingham, he said that he was really nervous leading, and you wonder if that's the right spot to be or not. But if we kind of run into a situation like what Tucker Minter had at Phoenix last year, that ended up advancing him into the championship 4. All you have to do, if you're Falkingham, perhaps, is keep leading and let him wreck behind you until we run out of overtime attempts.
Yeah, 3 is not a long leash, especially at a racetrack like Talladega Superspeedway. These are not unlimited attempts. 3 is not as long as you may think, despite how rare it is to run out of them. Here's the second look. You see the 66 car is going to get a couple of hits there. Thought he was almost all the way through that one, and eventually got spun out again. That car's damaged. It's not done, though. And let's see Jonathan Dillon. Dodging them low, dodging them to the outside. Would have thought that was Matthew Zwack driving with what we saw earlier. That was some good avoidance from Delaney.
And how many times have we seen them get past the first part of the wreck? They lift, and you could almost sense the sigh of relief before they start wrecking in front of them again. We've seen that a number of times tonight. I hate that looks like Matthew Zwack didn't quite make it through that. And by the way, mentioned that nobody was clutching up here. Daniel Falkingham's clutching right now as your race leader. So does he have enough fuel to get to the end? This is what's on the line, $100,000 at the end of the season. A win right here could put him in position to win all of that, and right now he is shutting the motor off trying to get to the end of this race.
And that $100,000 that goes to the champion seems strange to say is only a fraction of the $511,000 total that these drivers are fighting for. $301,000 of which is in winnings throughout the season. That's for the Drivers' Championship. That's for Team Championship. The segments, as well as we're here in the middle of segment number 2, which will end after Darlington. There's going to be a $3,000 bonus as well to the eventual segment champion, and 5 precious playoff bonus points, which is new this season as well. You combine that with the fixed setups, the heat races, the sprint races. There's never been more variance in the rules in the schedule and more money on the line in the 15-year history of this series than there is here in 2024.
Just makes these races so much more crucial, and not just winning, right? All of these guys that have been involved in these wrecks that are still on the lead lap, that still have a fighting shot. I mean, Honeycutt was just involved in that wreck. He's restarting 29th. He could still finish with a top 10 in this race, realistically, with how crazy the end of this race could get. So all these points, all these positions matter so much, and I love seeing that the incentives for these drivers to continue performing in the series continue to improve.
So lights are out. On top of the pace car, we will go again for attempt number 2 of 3 at eNASCAR overtime. Again, we need to get to the white flag in order for this race to be official. If we get another yellow before that point, it'll push us to the third and final look. Falkenham very clearly there, and you called it out, did not go early, waited on the flagman to start the race to not get that big jump out in front and then have to throw a block. Can the 54 replicate that again and try to stay even with the cars behind him, so that when they really get those big runs off of turn number 2, he's not in total desperation? And how loyal to him is the 97 car in line? Green flag in the air. It's eNASCAR overtime, attempt number 2.
There's a little bit of a stack up there with Duvall getting hooked up with Bowden. But Falkingham going to have a little bit of a lead. That may be enough unless he comes up to clear. He's not going to be able to complete it. So Bowden, that outside lane, even right now as Duvall separates. Now Lowe is shoved out of line. But Colin Bowden, with help from Dylan Duvall, is going to be your leader as they wreck behind.
Spinning was Jordy Lopez. It was behind the battle up front. And it is going to put us all the way to the brink of eNASCAR overtime as we are 0-for-2 on attempts at a finish, and in the exact same spot on the racetrack in which it happened last time, inside row on the exit of turn 2 is where Jordy Lopez gets spun. Semantics may be slightly different, but oddly similar, and I think that makes sense. We've seen at least 4 incidents of this nature where there's cars pushing, someone's going to get sped out of line, they're bouncing off each other, and as those cars unload from the banking and they get a little bit light, they're going to be that much more sensitive. Lopez doesn't even get a ton of damage in this wreck. We tore up many more cars on the last wreck. This one almost only the 90 and the 11, but enough to bring out the yellow.
And again, this is another situation, just kind of looking back and scrolling through the replay here. It's just another situation of the fourth car in line kind of giving a shove to that car in front. And honestly, it's not the first time that we've seen it, that it's Vicente Salas that's kind of that third or fourth car in line that is aggressively shoving. Look for that green number 11 car. This is where this all starts. You can see into the back of Mullis, who's into the back of Kwame Scott. There's a little bit of a checkup on the inside line. And right there, you can just see that car that's at the very tail end is the one that's kind of shoving those cars, gives them kind of no opportunity to react to that checkup. And you can kind of see the end result there. Just it's tough when you're the fourth or fifth car in line to continue pushing for everybody to line up perfectly.
Just enough of a heads up for Cody Bias to be able to avoid that one. And again, in the end, the worst recipient of damage is that 11 Salas, who was at the back and pushing, because right there, that's a big hit to the right front. Loses the front fascia off of that car. It doesn't look like any of the tires, the toe or anything like that has gotten severe damage. That's good, because when the right side of the car lifted up, first thing I thought was that wheel's going to be hanging on by a thread. He's staying out there for now in P17. Car ain't going to drive worth a thing, but again, at this point, this race seems more likely to end on a yellow than under green flag condition. Let's get a word with Colin Bowden. He's the lucky person in P1 now, Blake.
Well, Colin, here you are. You're leading this race. Final attempt at overtime. What's going through your mind, brother?
Oh, man, here we are. Been here before, right? I think it's raining out here. I can't see a daggum thing out here. Just call this race over. Be done with it. Man, this is just a crazy package. We got the build submarines.com car up front. Hopefully we can bring this back. I mean, we are going to have to make this thing extremely wide. And dadgummit, I'm going to do it too. If them boys are coming after me off turn 4, this thing is going to be 17 lanes wide all by itself.
Any hockey bets tonight?
Man, I just looked. The Canes are tied it up back there.
Yeah, we just saw back there they took a penalty, which the way the refs have been tonight, that's just kind of par for the course. But we're representing them behind us, so.
Man, what do you think I should do here? Do I try and get up top, or do I hold the bottom here? I don't like the position I'm in. You don't win this race from being first here.
Well, you can though. If you get
right away. God,
if you get an early launch and they wreck behind, you're home free.
Damn right, it will be. Katie bar the door at that point. I mean, if we get going through 1 and 2, it'll be pretty good. But then, I don't know where you want to be coming from, like 6th to 8th, coming to the white flag. I feel like with a run. So it's going to be so hard to win this from the lead if they don't crash. But I tell you, man, as stressful as this race means, I need a liquor drink after this. This has been. I bet you this has been entertaining to watch.
Well, I can't imagine what the party will be at North Wilkesboro if you're able to get the job done here tonight. 1 to go. We'll let you get after it. Best of luck.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
More stressful, Blake, leading, coming to a third green, white checkered, or playoff hockey games when it's tied in the third period? Or is the answer just yes?
Yeah. Let's go with that. Answer, of course, is just yes. And plus, his TV was a little ahead of the stream that I have right here.
Okay, so no spoilers, no spoilers. I remember when my team was in the playoffs. Those were good times. Colin's going to be lined up again on the front row here. And to that point that you mentioned, he doesn't like being in P1, Blake. He can win this, though, again, if they wreck. If you're the 17, can you allow yourself to strategize the restart based on what's happened the last 2 attempts? We haven't made it more than halfway down the backstretch. Can you allow yourself to try to do whatever you think on this restart will get you to the lead halfway down the back straightaway? Do you think, based on precedent, that that's what's going to happen, or do you have to strategize it to set yourself up for the 2-lap run?
Well, I mean, you can tell that for Bowden, he's already thought about this situation a number of times. He says, I don't want to be the leader. I want to be 7th, 8th, and getting that run to the line. It's so rare that we see whoever leads the white flag ends up bringing it home. But Colin Bowden will also tell you that every once in a while these drivers are a bunch of squirrels, and if all they got to do is wreck while he's in the lead entering turn 1, and it's over. So again, it's a constant push and tug here that we just don't know what the answer is going to be.
We haven't made it to the halfway point down that Alabama gang back straightaway the last 2 times. No matter what happens, this is it. The third and final attempt at eNASCAR overtime in Talladega. It is Bowden, Duvall on the front row, Falkingham, Minter, Zelensky inside of the top 5, but it's anybody's game on the lead lap. 30 cars strong, 2 by 2, coming to the start-finish line. Green flag in the air. It's a big jump for the 17.
He waits for the lane change. He goes up to the top. Is Duvall going to stick with him? For now, he does. Yes, trying to make that third lane work, but nobody goes with him.
41 looked topside, got around the 17, but nobody else bit, went back down to the bottom. It's Bowden leading the inside. The 41's into the outside wall. 3 wide to the middle goes Tucker Minter. They're all over each other, crashing down the back straightaway. Caution flies. Who was in front? Duvall and Minter side by side when the lights came on, and it may just go to Dillon Duvall.
I think you're right. I think it was Duvall, but it's hard to tell from that perspective. But you could tell he has a smile on his face, so it is telling him to stay up front. And this race will not go back green. So for Dillon Duvall, long time coming for the driver that has the 8th most starts in series history. Only 1 win. It has been a long time coming for Dillon Duvall to go back to victory lane, but it looks like he may have gotten it done. First one in such a long time for him.
You can see the smile. He's still going to have to bring that car around back to the start-finish line for this one to be official. And then we will see it be a return to victory lane for Dillon Duvall. The last time he won was back in 2016 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That one on July 26th, 2016. That's more than half of this series' history beyond us. I thought, okay, first initial thought, 2016, 4 or 5 years. Talking an 8-year difference for Dillon Duvall, has stayed in it and is a couple hundred feet from number 2.
And it's got to feel good to be in the series so long, and you can see the relief on his face right now, just hoping that, again, he has the internet connection to just get down here to the start-finish line, which I think he's going to have here. Tucker Minter was so close. I mean, it had to be a couple of feet that decided this one. But they weren't able to work it out, and Dillon Duvall is going to get the job done.
It's his 2nd career eNASCAR win and the first for Travis Pastrana and the Nitro Circus sim racing team as Dillon Duvall goes to eNASCAR victory lane at Talladega Superspeedway. And now he can take the trip around to celebrate once more. Big win for Dillon Duvall. He comes into this race in the championship 25th in points. He will be in a similar boat to the likes of Malik Ray, the likes of Keegan Leahy, who add a win to the resume but are still going to need strong second halves to get top 20 in points to count towards that playoff eligibility. But Duvall becomes the 6th different race winner in 7 races this year.
And again, to Duvall, it all counts the same. He's able to get the job done, and again, had to make a huge save on the backstretch. I thought he was the one that was getting turned and going into the wall off of 2. He was the one that was sideways. He kind of had to use the wall to correct that race car. They're all bouncing off of each other, and yet he still is able to keep it going in the right direction. And not only that, but because iRacing freezes the field, they go back to kind of the timing loops like we do in real life. He had to keep his speed up despite the fact that he was saving that race car, and he was able to do it to win.
It's a popular win amongst the drivers. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And after 8 years, Dillon Duvall is back in eNASCAR victory lane. It's career win number 2, and the first win For the new Nitro Circus sim racing team headed by Travis Pastrana, so many good storylines in this one as Duval finds victory lane in Talladega, leading only the final 2 laps of the race. See how he made it happen and take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race. And it all comes down to the final restart lined up on the outside.
Again, Bowden got the early jump. He waited until the start-finish line to make his lane change up to the top. He goes up to block Bowden. Guess dives out of line, but nobody goes with him. And here on, it's going to be happening around Falkingham as he goes up to the middle. Everybody kind of vying for that middle lane as Duval throws a block, gets shoved into the wall, and then it's just chaos from there.
He's in the wall, and at some point there, yellow comes out. Well, they are 3 wide. Minter to the inside, low on the very bottom. But at the moment of yellow, why not make it another 3 wide photo finish? Maybe a bit different than what we saw this past weekend in the Cup Series. It goes to Dillon Duval. Let's kick off our Sunoco post-race report and talk with our winner.
Dillon Duval, you are back in eNASCAR victory lane for the first time in 8 years. How does it feel to get the job done, and how were you able to hang on to it on the back straightaway?
Yeah, man, it feels incredible. I can't thank everyone enough who stuck with me through this journey these years. First of all, I got to thank Nitro Circus, all of our partners, Nitro Cross, Next Level Racing, Penguin RC, Kicking the Tires, just everyone that makes this happen. They picked me up this year, and I'm just grateful to be able to put it in victory lane for them. And man, it's been a long time coming. Last year was a big confidence boost for me. I felt like I could have and maybe should have won a couple races last year, and it just didn't happen. So I'm happy that we were able to turn it around, win tonight. I don't know if this puts us inside of the top 20, but it sure helps. I feel like I kind of called my shot this week too. I've been kind of saying that I'm going to go out and win this thing, and damn right we did it.
Well, speaking of turning things around, it does put you in the top 20 in points. So right now your win would lock you into the playoffs. So with that in mind, going forward, how does this kind of change the outlook on your season? Because you got into the top 20, but you still have to maintain your spot there.
Yeah, it honestly doesn't change a whole lot. The goal is to go win more races. And if we can't do that, we need to score the most amount of points possible. I feel like I've done a good job over these last few years knowing how to points race. I feel like that's really what helped me last year in finishing 11th in points. So I know how to do it. Just need to hope luck's on our side, and maybe we'll get to be a part of these playoffs. So that'll be pretty awesome.
It is a first-time win for Nitro Circus, and you're the one that's able to bring that to him. I'm sure it's special, Dillon. We'll let you go celebrate with you and the rest of your crew. Congratulations on ending up back in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series victory lane.
Thanks, Wade.
Dillon Duval, your winner, as we'll catch up here with Tucker Minter, your second-place runner on the Sunoco post-race report. And Tucker, just kind of walk us through that last little stretch. I know you've kind of come out well in some of these races where we may not see the checkered flag without a caution flag in it, but did you think you had that race won when all that kind of happened and your car was still rolling forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess live by the timing of the last caution and die by it with last year at Phoenix, but I definitely thought I was ahead of Dillon. I mean, I saw the caution light, or I saw, the caution come up on the screen, and I knew Garrett was close to me. I had no idea where he came from. He had so much momentum, but I knew Dillon was way behind me. But when I saw let the 41 go by, it was a little bit of a bummer, but it's just kind of the way the season's been, kind of always the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of way that it's been going. But at least we're, finishing second, kind of clicking off some good finishes here after the rough start.
I was about to say you were ninth in points coming into the night. I would imagine with a lot of your competitors in front of you having some trouble that you may be in the top 5, if not better than that. So How tough was it to kind of go through that stretch at the beginning part of the season? I know it can be frustrating when the results don't go your way and you feel like you deserve a little bit better, but this recent surge here through the last, 4 or 5 races or so has been awfully impressive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's always hurts your confidence when you don't run well, whether it's something you feel like is in your control or not. So it definitely was disappointing, especially coming into a place like Talladega after the rough results we've had at Daytona to start the year in Atlanta. But I was like, I got to come into the race with a new mindset. And obviously I feel like it worked out. I felt like I was a lot more competitive. I was in the conversation a lot more. Just, it's good to be in the picture at the end of these plate races is kind of how I've been looking at it. Rather than, you can't guarantee if you're going to win, but you want to be in that picture.
All right, Tucker. Well, congratulations on second. Again, another good night for you, and it's going to put you in a better points position. So we'll look forward to how that rolls on in the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Blake, and thanks to the Logitech G, Oil and Fire, and Esports guys. It's been a great start to the season so far.
Tucker Minter brings it home in second. And Garrett Lowe finds himself at the front at the end of this melee and brings it home in third for BS Plus competition. Garrett, just kind of, walk us through that last little stretch. You restart kind of just outside of the top 5, and you find yourself in a position to nearly win this thing.
Yeah, honestly, I thought I had it won. Maybe the caution's delayed another second. I think we have it. If you go by timing of the caution lights, we're technically second, so I don't know how it's being scored. But yeah, no, it was a close finish. I was just trying to avoid the wreck, and I just picked the right lanes at the right time to be in a position to at least have an attempt to win the race when the caution came out. Wish we would have had some green runs to finish the end of the race, but overall, I mean, I'm pretty happy. I'm about 12 hours away from home, sitting in a sim rig that I don't own. So big thanks to Don for helping me out on that. And yeah, proud of the effort. Just wish we would have come up a little bit better.
Well, I know you're based out of Charlotte, so where exactly are you right now?
I'm in Brooklyn, Michigan.
Oh wow, okay, that's definitely not Charlotte. Why are you up there?
So we got the Formula SAE internal combustion competition this week. All my 49ers racing teammates are down at the hotel tonight. I took a little trek and a detour all the way to the track, and ended up running the race tonight, and able to get it done and at least put some good points on the board and have another podium in the bank for the season.
All right, well, good stuff there, Garrett, and way to battle through. Talladega is probably one of those races, if you were going to be in a different setting, probably work out for you here, and it does work out for you tonight. P3 for BS Plus competition. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Well, that's a chat with our top finishers on the Sunoco post-race report. Let's take a look at your results tonight from Talladega. And again, the intervals will not accurately reflect that moment of yellow. They had to come back around and complete an additional lap. But Duval, Minter, Lowe, 1, 2, 3 by inches. And Duval is back in victory lane 2,842 days after he won at Indianapolis in 2016. Zelensky, Falkingham, the good finish for the Joe Gibbs Racing team. Same with the Tony Kanaan Toyotas, with Keister and Salas rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, only 3 drivers that started in the top 10 finished in the top 10. Ray Alfala, his best run of the year, brings it home 11. Caden Honeycutt, a number of these drivers, Evan, Parker White, Luza, several involved in late race incidents, and yet they find themselves up here in the top 20.
It is a fickle foe, that Talladega Superspeedway, and even down here in the mid-20s. Steven Wilson led 14 laps. That was tied for more than anybody else, with he and Falkingham. Doesn't get a whole lot to show for it. He's already a 2-time race winner. He will be okay when it is all said and done. And then down on the back page of this one, drivers looking for opportunity. Bowden was there with Wilson, but even here, Femi Olat, you got Kwame Scott, Novak, Kerwin, they all led laps, but they are unable to find victory lane here tonight at Talladega. So with that, 7 down, 7 to go. We are halfway through the regular season, and this next race takes us to NASCAR's backyard at iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway in 2 weeks' time.
And again, this is a track that produces some fantastic racing. We know 1.5 miles are definitely on the way up right now, and you think back to Charlotte Motor Speedway last year, we saw one of the best races and best finishes that we've seen in this series history. Look to get back after it. A longer race than what we've had at most this year, so looking forward to it and should put on a great show again.
Yeah, 160 laps on the board for that one. You are not going to want to miss it. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from Talladega. On behalf of our entire team at iRacing, eNASCAR, and for your broadcast team tonight, for Blake McCandless and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Dillon Duvall on his return to eNASCAR Victory Lane. Again, we're back in 2 weeks' time. That one Tuesday, May 21st at iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here on iRacing Live and streaming on eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Talladega.